Good morning, everybody.
Good morning to you.
How's everyone doing?
A little rushed, but otherwise okay.
I feel you. I feel you. That's okay. We'll start slowly. And it's 8:59. We have a couple more minutes. So I'm just gonna run and grab my coffee, let some other folks join, and then we'll get started for contract to close. Oh, good. We've had a few more people. Oh, thank you, Janet, for putting up the student book is in the chat if anybody needs that. Okay, and I don't know who opened. Janet, did you open up the room for us today? Oh, she's not there. Okay.
Hi, Susan.
Hey, good morning. How are you?
Good. How are you?
I'm great, thanks. Were you the kind person that opened up the room for us
Uh,
today?
I-
Oh, hi, Tim.
I am. I'm the MCA.
Awesome. I just need screen sharing.
Yeah, hang on. I got it.
Oh boy, hold on.
That your puppy that barked?
Yeah.
What do you have?
He's a Catahoula hound dog, which I had never heard of, but he's really a rescue from
Oh,
down south somewhere.
that's
He's
good.
usually pretty quiet, but there's someone out front doing something. So
Yes. Yeah,
he
they
just
get-
wanted to let me know that they were there.
Yeah, I understand.
You should be able to screen share now.
Cool.
I don't,
I think I can. How's that? Can you guys see that?
yeah.
Cool. All right, we're in good shape. We'll just give it one more minute and hopefully get some more people here.
So before we get started, I'd love to know who has added a substantial amount of people to their command based on the 10-4. Arthur's shaking his head. He's doing the math. He's got his abacus out. Hang on. What do you got, Arthur? You're muted.
I've added, I'm up to about 140 something. I'm in the process of adding more though, because
That's phenomenal.
now the ones I've added are starting to give me names. I just gotta make contact with them now.
That's
I
phenomenal.
actually have a couple of sit downs with a couple of people coming up for it, so
Congratulations. That's awesome.
Yeah,
you.
fantastic.
Yeah, that's the video game too. If you guys heard, Arthur said he's adding his people and then they're giving him more people to add. That's the video game of the conversation, right? Who do you know that I should know? Who do you know that I can help? What do you mean by that, Arthur? I'm glad you asked him. We're looking for listings for our buyers, buyers for our listings, and talent for our team. And Friday at 5, a good stiff drink, right? Whatever, like whatever you want to share with them, right? You know.
Right. Awesome. How about appointments? Anyone get any appointments?
I've had a few. I called a for sale by owner the other day and I have appointment Wednesday to talk to them about why they're selling for by owner and if I can change that. So hoping.
That is awesome. And you know what? For sale by owners really do still need our help. It's painful out there being a for sale by owner. And helping them realize how painful it is will help you show your value when you're chatting with them.
Lined up my first listing appointment, hopefully in the next week or so. Some
Awesome.
friends up the road, and then I have 2 strong leads for listings as well that I'm going to call today. I got last night.
Excellent.
That is so great. That feels good, doesn't it?
Yeah, it feels like a big win.
Yeah.
Just the potential is a big win.
Mm-hmm. Like, you know what? You can do this.
I'm
Awesome.
still waiting for my license. It's been about a month.
Oh, jeepers. It'll come.
5 weeks in a day for me.
Wow. Boy, they're backed up, huh?
Wow.
Oh, goodness. Well, I'm glad that you had Ignite to keep you busy and kind of get you propelled to get ready. Are we good, Tim? Are you ready for me to jump in?
Yeah, I think so. I was just gonna say to Noah, the fact that you've got all those kitchen tables set up is huge, and never mind what the conversion may be. I trust you're gonna do great. Don't get disheartened. Don't take your eye off the ball. Keep going after kitchen tables. Like we say this to our agents here at 463 all the time. I'll say it to you guys as a region, and I guarantee you that Gary would agree. You should only ever be looking for kitchen tables. It's not that we don't want to service the buyers. We can help them at the highest level when we have the inventory they're looking for, right? You've all heard people at your office saying, you know what, there's no inventory. I've got a ton of buyers, but there's nothing out there. There's tons of stuff out there. And the conversations Noah's having and you guys are all going to have about bringing that property to market is going to help the buyers that are staring you dead in the eye saying, what do we do now? So that's awesome, Noah. Stay focused on never take your eye off the ball. Keep going after listings. The buyers are the collateral awesomeness of what you're doing. You're going to run into unrepresented qualified buyers along the way. None of you should be looking for buyers. Does anybody need a buyer right now? Let's just ask that question before we get started with contract close. Does anybody need a few buyers? No. Does everybody need at least a listing, if not more? Raise your hand.
Yeah.
Yes. Yes. Most people come to Ignite. Most people get into real estate because they're looking to have more freedom, right? And the freedom of our calendar is born out of the freedom that we create through opportunity, which is the money in your pocket.
Can I suggest something?
Sure.
I just did a P&S yesterday, and it was on a listing that had been on MLS for 56 days.
Hmm.
It was I guess it went on June 1st, and they had a buyer, and then the buyer, over like a 2 or 3 week period, it fell through. So at the beginning of July, they had to throw the house back on the market.
Hmm.
And I went to the closing. There was only one other person there. And I put in a letter of intent, and they said, okay. And then we just went to the PMS yesterday. So this is just to say, this is like something that's been on MLS. So if people can go down deep diving for like, not just stuff that's just coming on to the MLS, but stuff that's been there for a long time.
Yeah, great
Sorry,
point.
can you go back? You went to the can you repeat what you said? I kind of got lost there.
Oh, I'm just saying, just don't always look for the stuff that's just come on MLS, like it's been on 1 day, 5 days, 3 days, or whatever. I found a property that had been on MLS for 56 days. And it was a closing. It was put on the beginning of June 1. It put it on the market. They got a buyer. It went for like 2 or 3 weeks, and then the buyer, I guess, couldn't go to the end. So they had to drop the whole thing, and then they put it back on MLS, looking for buyers on like, I think July 7th. And by the time I was looking at it, it had been on MLS for 56 days. So they were doing an open house, which was last Saturday. I went to it. There was only one other couple there, and I brought my newlyweds. And to make a long story short, I just did a letter of intent over the weekend. They took it, and yesterday I did the PNS, and it went to the seller last night to sign. So I'm just saying, don't just look at things at the beginning of showing. Go deep diving for stuff that's been on MLS for like a long time.
Yeah, absolutely. It's definitely a season to be creative.
Yes.
And, when we have buyers, don't be afraid to ask your leadership on how to put in a backup offer. Because if there was a backup offer on that, as soon as the first deal falls apart, you automatically slide into first place and cut out the competition. So there are opportunities. Deals do fall apart. There are still the same old issues with contract to close that we've had. And we're going to talk about that today too. So that's a great segue. Thank you. On contract to close and how we make that an awesome process, and how we also make sure that we get to the closing table, because there's a lot of work that has to happen before we get to the closing table once we go into contract. But thanks for bringing that up. That's a really great point. I'm going to jump right in. So if you guys are here for Ignite Contract to Close, awesome, you're in the right place. We have a really great few hours to spend together to talk about contract to close. My name is Susan Kenyon. I'm up in Portsmouth, New Hampshire Market Center 463 with Tim. And I'm happy to see so many familiar faces. I know I've seen a lot of you last week on making and receiving offers. For those of you that don't know me, I'm an agent, and I'm an in-production agent. So everything that I really come to the table with comes from that perspective of production and being in contract and closing deals, because that's where my passion is, and I love the contract to close process. So I'm always so happy when I can jump in and pick up this session. So while we're going through today, I so welcome you to put your videos on. Remember, how we play and practice and participate here is how we practice everywhere. So let's get engaged. If we want to be engaged with our customers and our clients and being at closing tables and our co-brokes, then let's start today with this class and be engaged and participate. So feel free to unmute yourself and just jump right in and interrupt me. Feel free to raise a hand and I will be on the lookout for any hands, digital hands that I see raised to answer those. Let's just jump right in. And one thing before we get started, contract to close it can be very state specific, more so than some of the other Ignite sessions that we have. So I'm licensed in New Hampshire and Maine. I know that we're on a regional call, so there's many other states involved here. So I'm going to try to keep things as general as I can while we're talking about contract to close, but always remember that it's our job to be compliant and know what the rules and regulations are for the states that we're practicing in. Okay? All right. And here we go. So, this slide we've really seen every single time that we've had Spark or any of the elemental sessions, but I love it because this is the job, right? So this is a course that was built around what do successful agents do every day. This is what they do. So today, we've already talked a lot about the growing your business side of this screen where, you've worked with sellers and you've lead generated for sellers and buyers and you've made presentations. We've talked about that. Presentations to sellers, buyer presentations. We've previewed real estate. Once you do all of that, you kind of get the privilege to jump over to the running the business side of the house, where we get to market our seller listings. We get to show buyers houses, right? We get to take them shopping. And today we're going to focus on, negotiate contracts, transaction management to closing. That's contract to close. Vendor management, right? There's so many people involved in this process, and deadlines and being being in touch with the momentum of the contract to close process is very important. Keeping everybody on task as to who's supposed to be doing what when. Appraisals, lenders, title companies, attorneys, co-brokes, our own clients. Sometimes they're the hardest ones to rein in. We've got to keep all of that together. And running your business is setting goals like, Noah, making your call so that you get more listing presentations. And what are our goals and the, number of contacts a day and previewing real estate and handwritten notes. Those things don't go away once we get to the running of the business. And then super important with contract to close is compliance and risk management. We need to know what the rules and the regulations are for the states that we're practicing in to make sure that our contracts and our clients are compliant and following all of the guidelines that we need to be following. And then, running the business is attending training and getting coaching, which you're doing today. And did you guys all join Matt yesterday for the finance piece? Yeah, managing our money. So important. We work really hard for that commission check. So being able to keep our money and do the right things with our money is very important. Otherwise, we've just spent a lot of time for nothing. So managing our money as independent contractors is really important. Things like, paying our quarterly taxes, uh, being prepared for the ebbs and flows or seasonality of our market, making sure that we have, our safety nest put aside so that, when we have a dip in closings or a dip in commissions, that we're not going to be stressed out financially, that we're prepared for that, and saving. So we're going to talk about all of those things today. And I always like to start with, for contract to close, I had heard this at a training when I first got my license. My husband has had his license longer than I have. We're partners. And I didn't want to keep asking him, like, how do I do this? How do I do this? So one of the first trainings I took was the Perfect Real Estate Assistant, which is a MAPS coaching program. If you see it come around, it's definitely very valuable of a class to take. And the lady that put that class together, her name is Monica Reynolds, and she explained the contract to close process as the dessert. And I've always used this analogy, and it's really helped me to always be elevating my level of service during the contract to close process. And what she is talking about is, when you have a big event in your life and you want to celebrate, you get dressed up, you ask your favorite person to go out with you, you're going to go out to a really fancy dinner. There's going to be awesome valet service. The maitre d' is fantastic, gives you a lot of attention. Your waiter is superb. Before you can even ask for something, they're over there making sure that all of your needs are met. The food comes out and it's just fantastic. And then they roll out the dessert cart. And it's beautiful. You pick out your dessert, they put it down on the table, and there's a fly on the plate. It doesn't matter all of the awesome stuff that had happened, from the valet parking. When you go out to see your friends the next day and you're talking around the water cooler and they say, how was your celebration night? You're like, yeah, it was really great, but there was a fly in the dessert. So what about all that other work that happened from that restaurant, right? They had the valet parking, they had the maitre d', they had the aesthetics, everything looked great. The chefs and the food was wonderful. But what you're remembering is the fly in the plate. We have to remember that when we're talking about contract to close, we really need for this to be an awesome experience for our clients, because contract to close gives you the opportunity for future business. These are the people that we're going to get referral business from, we're going to get repeat business from, and the better experience that they have during contract to close increases your ability to get future business from them. Does that make sense? So I wish I had a beautiful plate of dessert for all of you today, because today is all about the dessert. We'll pretend we have cake. Okay, so we are going to jump right in. And today our agenda is, like most things, we're going to have a buyer side and a seller side. So we're going to start with building a buyer timeline and a seller timeline. So just like you had the experience of a deal falling apart and then you were able to get into contract on that property, we want to build a timeline and talk about where are the pitfalls in contract to close that we need to make sure that we're avoiding, and how we can make sure that we get past those hurdles so that we do get to the closing table, because there are some pitfalls along the way that we can manage. Okay. And then we're going to talk about some best practices for managing the deal. We're going to talk about daily success habits and recapping and creating your success list. And there are tools in Command. So I'm not going to do any deep dives into Command, but I'll keep referencing Command, because you can use Command to keep your deals on track. And of course, we need to be using Command and opportunities to make sure that we get paid at the end of the transaction. So we're going to start with a buyer timeline. We're going to build a buyer timeline. So, from the buyer's perspective, I always like to, when I'm going into the contract to close piece, if I'm working with a buyer, I need to remember that they don't know anything about the process, and they're just really super excited about getting under contract. And in this market, they're really excited about getting under contract because they may have had the experience of having to lose out on several offers before they finally win a contract. If you're anything like me, that's what I'm experiencing right now. Is anybody shopping with buyers right now? Painful.
Yep, I just put in a letter of intent and there were 4 buyers and of course I was the lowest. I just put in the asking price. I just kind of did it for practice, and for my
Yeah.
buyers to kind of get used to being, no, sorry, kind of
Yeah.
thing. But she sent me a letter saying, well, I had 4 offers, 3 of them were higher than the asking price. And one person really went out of the ballpark.
Yeah. And how do you compete with that, right?
Right,
And
right.
it's setting expectations, right, with our buyers right now that this is a process where we very well could be putting in offers and not getting them before we get an offer that is accepted, right? Every no gets us closer to a yes.
Mhm.
Yeah. So they might be when we're starting to build a under contract timeline, we have to keep that in mind. Our buyers might be exhausted right now. They might be emotionally tapped out. Um, and at the same time, they are excited. So we need to keep them on task. We need to be reminding them of what they have to do when they have to do it. If we give them too much information up front, they won't remember it all. So we have to I like to tell them that we're going to just knock one domino over at a time, but I'll always stay in front of that so that we do it in the right order. So the first step in that is where you're at, Ignatius. Is that correct? Am I pronouncing your name correct?
No, I'm really Reader.
Oh,
I'm really Reader. I don't know why that. Maybe it's just the link that I'm on. That's what it's connected to. But I'm Reader.
oh, okay. If you click
Sorry.
your 3 dots, you can do a rename. You can hit rename and put your correct name in there.
Oh, okay. I can't do it now because the screen is up for you.
I'll try to remember. That's fine. I'll try to remember. But we start with with an executed contract. That's the beginning of the timeline. And when we get that executed contract, we need to make sure that, everything on there is correct. Did everyone sign where they have to sign? Did everyone initial where they had to initial? But that is the very beginning of our timeline. And the first step is that we need to work with the lender. So, goodness gracious, please don't let this be the first time you're talking to the lender, for sure. I know we talked about this in making and receiving offers. We are in the relationship business. So the relationships with people on this timeline should have been started before we get to the executed contract. When you do that, your contract to close process goes so much more smoothly. But we start with the lender, right? We need to let the lender know that our buyer is under contract. They're going to need some paperwork from us, like copies of the contract, copies of earnest money deposits, whatever it is that they need. And some of your states might require other documents than New Hampshire and Maine does. Generally, that's where I start is with those 2 pieces. And remember, it's not the buyer's job to be sending all of this documentation to the lender. It's our job to do that. So we need to build in, you guys should be starting to build like your checklists based off of these timelines. You can ask some folks in your market center if they have checklists for what they do for contract to close, stuff like that. But working with our lender, because we need to get that lending kicked off right away. We need them to fill out their applications. If they're not fully approved, we need to be letting our buyers know that as soon as we're under contract, when the lender asks you to do something, you need to stop what you're doing and get them everything that they need immediately. So in general, they could have, if they are not fully pre-approved, they could have a pretty good list of stuff that they need to get. And this is what happens when they ask for all of those items like bank statements and paycheck stubs and tax returns, and if there's anything on child support, they're going to give them this whole list. And some buyers are going to do this. They're going to pass in bank statements, and then they're going to go to lunch. And maybe the next day they're going to pass in tax returns. The lender just takes all of those and they start a file. But until they get everything, they can't move forward with underwriting and stuff like that to actually start processing. So we need to let our buyers know when you get that list, they need everything on there. And then people will start working on your files. Let's get our buyers in the habit of, I'm going to make sure that we're staying on track. But when the lender needs something, we stop what we're doing and we get that done as quickly as possible. Now, that doesn't resonate a lot with a buyer, but this will. When you say every day that you delay in getting documents that your lender requests, that's a day that you could be delaying closing. So if they ask you for something, it takes you 3 days to get it, you could be tacking 3 days on after our closing date is that we're extending closing to. That resonates with them. Okay. So we need to keep them on track. And we need to keep our lenders happy. So being a team with the lender and letting them know, like, hey, if my buyer, Scott, is not getting you documents, please let me know. Don't assume that the lender is going to pull you in and have you help with getting that documentation. Not every lender is going to do that. So we need to be thinking of those things. We need to be saying, please let me know when all their documents are in. Please let me know if you're having a hard time getting a hold of them, or if you're having a hard time receiving, paperwork that you need from them, because I'm happy to jump in at any point. Okay. So we're realtors, we're not lenders, but we are the team captain here. So we need to be making sure that every player on the field is doing what they need to do when they need it. And when that person needs extra support, we need to make sure we're giving it to them and finding those resources.
Susan, part of what I do in my consult is talk about building the team and bringing in that lender early on. I mean, I just signed a buyer and he told me what his price range was. He had talked to a lender months ago. And my first task is to hook him up with a lender who we can really make a team member, so that each time he writes an offer, and hopefully there'll only be one, but each time he can connect with his lender. So the lender is huge because we want to keep their financials at arm's length. We want the lender to talk about that stuff with them. So I am just reinforcing what you're saying about the importance of the lender.
Yeah, absolutely. I love that. And you know what? Some people are not comfortable talking about money. We need to get comfortable talking about money and asking very direct questions about money. Do you have the money for deposits? These monies get withdrawn right away. Are you prepared for the costs of inspections if we're doing inspections? Because that's real cash that you have to come to the table with. So I love that you do that. And you're right, we need a trusted lender that wants to be a team with us, because that will make our buyer a stronger buyer.
Mm-hmm.
Right? Because we have to sell that buyer to a listing agent. So I love that. I love that. And if you guys don't have a relationship with the lender, start taking them out for coffee and meet one and get connected with some. If you don't have one, ask some folks in your market center who they're using, but a local lender is really important. Don't you think so, Jan? Are you finding like the local lenders are definitely stronger?
Absolutely. Absolutely. I want someone who I can call on a Saturday afternoon and say, please, can you rewrite that letter for, this amount? And, or even sometimes, will you make a call to the listing agent? This buyer wants this house bad.
Yeah. Absolutely. And they want to get people under contract too. It's in really everybody's best interest. And being a strong buyer and having a local lender, from a listing agent side, I'm thrilled when I know the lender on offers that come in. It makes it really does make you a stronger buyer in how you're perceived by the listing agent, because it's not, the listing agent brings a lot back to the seller on their opinion of the marketplace. And that is true on who the lenders are that are attached to the offers that are coming in. So this work with lender is, we're spending a lot of time on it because it's huge. And Janet, I'm seeing the same thing where lenders are really starting to sell with us. They're even changing the flavors of some of their pre-approval letters on how great they are to work with, and helping to sell our buyers to the listing agents. We need that. We need that back and forth.
I had a buyer recently ask me what questions to ask the lender.
Ooh, that's a good one.
Yeah, so I'm searching for that if anyone has such a list.
Yeah, that would be a good one. That's a great marketing piece too, right? For your buyer packets, what you should be looking for from your lenders.
Absolutely.
Yep. So then the other thing here is home inspection. So I really don't like that we're in an environment where buyers are not doing inspections as often as they used to be doing. So we're going to talk today about really, because that piece is going to go back into the timeline more frequently than it is right now. Right now, we are seeing buyers choose not to do inspections, but they are an important piece to this puzzle. So we're going to leave them on this timeline and talk about the market as if people are doing inspections, because it is important. And it's important to be connected with some good local home inspectors, because the home inspectors can make or break a contract. They can be an alarmist where they see anything in a property that could cause problems, and they kind of behave way up here in the atmosphere, and everything's going to be a problem and expensive, and sometimes steer a buyer out of a house. Or they could be the opposite of that, and they could be a problem solver where they really should be coming into a property and inspecting it with an unbiased viewpoint. They're there to point out the issues of a property, not to say whether or not someone should move forward. And there's some great home inspectors out in your marketplace that will say, hey, this is what I'm seeing here, and here are some possible solutions to it. Any problem can be solved. Just because you hear the word mold doesn't mean that everybody should be running out of the house. We have remediation companies for that, right? So we need to be problem solvers with our home inspectors. We need to prepare our buyers for the home inspection process. So we're going to talk about home inspections from our buyer's perspective. And when we get to the seller timeline, we're going to flip that and talk about it from when we're representing the seller. But from the buyer perspective, I really prepare my buyers for the home inspection. I prepare them that, a home inspection is really such a great opportunity for you to learn about how you're going to maintain your home after you close. It's really going to be a great opportunity for you to learn about the systems. If there's a major significant defect that wasn't previously disclosed, we may go back and negotiate and ask to negotiate with the seller. It's not an opportunity for a honey-do list, right? Because the thing about a home inspection is it's like a really thick report with every single thing wrong with the home. The job of the home inspection is to point out everything that is wrong with the home as far as a maintenance perspective is concerned, so that you know what it is. Hi.
I do a quick question, sorry. Just to
Sure.
go back on your example, you had mentioned to think out of the box or be more of a problem solver. So for that example with the mold, when you say to bring in a third party,
Yeah.
how would that work?
The thing about mold is that more people have mold in their house than they know. I've never had anyone really do that deep a dive in my house in so long. I could have it here. I don't know. There's small mold problems, and then there's really large mold problems. A home inspector is not a mold remediator. So if they're saying there's potential mold, like maybe in the attic or the basement or something, then our response should be, well, let's look at that and let's bring in somebody that works in the mold environments, a remediator. Like up in New Hampshire, and you guys probably have these services too, like EnviroVantage and places like that. And if you don't know, if you come into this situation, just ask people in your market center, they'll know. And then those specialists who specialize in mold go in and say, yes, you have mold, or no, you don't. This is where it is, and this is what is causing it. And you get an estimate on what it will take to remediate that and figure out what was causing it and how to fix the problem that was causing the mold. Maybe it's just a ventilation issue. So maybe they need to remediate the mold that's there and do some, repair somewhere in the attic or wherever it is, so that you don't get, so that problem goes away, so that you don't get more mold after you remediate what's there. So that's what I mean by being a problem solver. When you prepare your buyer, that inspection report is going to be really big. It's going to point out all the small things. It's going to, what it's going to do. And I tell them this, I say, what this is going to do? It's going to give you my first 12 months list of projects that I'm going to need, and then maybe my 1 to 5 year, and then my 5 to 10 year of things that you're going to want to do over time to maintain your home. Because not everything has to be done right away. Does that make sense?
I tell that to my
Yes,
buyers.
thank you.
Susan, in this market too, I think that where there is so much competition, if a home has areas that need improvement, often those are opportunities for our buyers. If we can navigate them through that negotiation.
Absolutely. And if we're doing that, make sure that we're only advising them in real estate. So like if it's areas that need improvement, I don't like to say things like, this is not an expensive fix, or I like to point them into the source of the source. So when you guys are out in the market and you're looking at properties and you're viewing properties, it's really great when you're, doing the viewing properties piece, that you're looking for potential pitfalls if you were under contract for that house. And where would you, start formulating that list? Where would I send someone to resolve that problem? Because I can't tell them how much it's going to cost to, make a deck more sturdy than it is, or fix, different construction pieces of a home. I'm not the source for that, but you know what? Most things can be fixed. What we don't want to say is, this is such a huge problem, you should walk away. Because at the end of the day, we have a seller that wants to sell and a buyer that wants to buy, and we have a kind of some issues in between that we need to be a team on to figure out how we're going to move forward. But home inspections, I love them. If you guys have the opportunity to do home inspections, go do them, or participate in them, or just follow someone around on somebody else's home inspections, that you can start talking the talk and learning more about what are home inspectors looking at, and what are they saying, and what are they seeing. You know what it will do is it will help you when you're going and shopping with buyers to look for things that would be seen at a home inspection, as opposed to just the size of the closets or what kind of countertops they have. It's going to show you how to look at property from a different lens.
Home insurance, pushing home inspections on your buyer, and the buyer that I just signed up, this house is only 4 years old. It's 2017 it was built. But I push the inspection because it's a peace of mind for the buyer that he knows it's been inspected, no matter what age it is, how it could be, 2 years old, that he knows he's got that paper, he's got that inspection saying that everything was okay.
Mm-hmm.
It's just a peace of mind thing.
Yep. Awesome. Any questions on the home inspection in this timeline? We want to get past the home inspection contingency as quickly as we possibly can. It's in everybody's best interest to knock that domino over. Because what I do is when we're at the execute a contract and working with the lender, I let my lenders know, please don't order appraisal or anything until we're past inspection. But right now appraisals are taking a little bit longer, right? They're taking longer to get someone to pick them up. They're getting longer for them to turn them in. We need to get to the point of getting the appraisal ordered. And so I'm actually going to stick in here, if you can see my cursor right up here after home inspection. This is where I would put in title or attorney, appraisal, those kind of three things, title or attorney, depending on what state you're in. So I'm in states that use title companies. If you're in states that use attorneys, that they're kind of this, same functionality, that's when that stuff gets ordered. And we need to make sure that, we're getting past the home inspection contingency so that we can keep pushing this file through to all of the people that have to touch it and look at it. And right now, the appraisals are kind of an issue. We need to be prepared for how much are we under contract for? What are the comps? The appraisal is going to be looking at the same close comparables that we did when we put the offer in on the house. So we want to jump forward and get to that title piece as quickly as we can as well. And we want to be building relationships with these people because, like even at the home inspection part, I see the same home inspectors all the time. So when they see my name come across an order or my car show up in a driveway, we have a good working relationship. They know what to expect from me. I know what to expect from them. That's all value that you're going to be bringing to the table for your buyers and sellers. So if you can get out there and go to home inspections and be talking to vendors in your marketplace, you want them to start getting familiar with you and you want to start getting familiar with them. You'll get better service from them when you're in better relationship with them. And by that, I mean, when you're in relationship with your vendor partners, with your team, your strategic partners in this whole contract to close process, when it's 5 or 6 o'clock and you need information right away, they're going to answer your emails. They're going to pick up your phone calls. So being in relationship is really important for all of the vendors in here.
So Susan, they should be really gathering their lists now. And I've been told to have 3 to 5 names to hand to your buyer because you don't want to always be leaning on just one in case it's not a good match. But if they talk to people in their market center, they can start building this list today.
Yeah, absolutely. And gain the experience of starting to walk the walk, talk the talk, for sure. I'm so happy to see that they put home insurance on this timeline, because guess what buyers always wait till the last possible minute to do? Get a home insurance binder. They're not getting a loan without one. So really they could get that binder right from the very beginning. But for some reason, buyers wait until the very last minute to get a home insurance binder, and their file will not get cleared from the lender without the home insurance binder. And it can delay a closing. So we need to be, part of my canned email when we go under contract is encouraging my buyer to do this right away. I give them contacts of who they can reach out to, because if they're first time home buyers, they might not have an insurance company that they already work with for home insurance. So we want them to get that covered right away. Part of the lending process is that, they're going to have to pay to have a year. It's usually a year of insurance up front that they pay at closing. They don't have to pay for it before the closing, but it is part of their closing costs that they need to get that. And that binder gets sent to the lender and the underwriters, and it has to get signed off on. So the pieces of this timeline, the buyers don't always understand that these pieces have to get approved. So if they have to get an insurance binder, the binder has to get approved from the lender and the underwriters.
So I have a question.
Sure.
So is this true in all states that it's in like the home warranty? And
True in all states. We probably should stop there. It's probably not true in all states. We don't need a home warrant. I'm New Hampshire and Maine, and this piece is in here. And I used to do a lot of home warranties in a buyer's market. I don't really see much of these in a seller's market, but we are going to talk about them. They're not required in New Hampshire and Maine. I cannot speak to any other state outside of that.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, you're welcome. But, write that question down and go back to your leadership on that. Home warranties can be a fantastic tool, especially in a buyer's market. When it's a buyer's market, we're just the opposite of where we are now, where there's a lot of sellers and not that many buyers. So sellers are doing things to try to attract buyers to their house. What can I do to make my house more attractive to a buyer than another property? So when it's a buyer's market, I used to offer home warranties as, it was a marketing piece. I called it like it was, how you can get like a certified pre-owned car. I had this marketing thing for like certified pre-owned home. And one of the things that was offered was a home warranty, kind of like when you're buying a used car and they offer an extended warranty. I tagged on to that to try to attract buyers to my sellers' homes. And a home warranty, there's different levels and different companies that offer home warranties. Home Warranty of America is one of them. If you reach out to them, they'll give you, you don't have to create a marketing piece for them. They'll give you one that you can use, and it will outline what they offer at different price points. And it will basically warrant different systems in the home for specific periods of time. So if the furnace is 20 years old and I need to make this property more attractive to potential buyers, I might get a home warranty that would warrant that furnace for another year or 2 years or 5 years or whatever. And that's what a home warranty will offer you. Can be a really great tool.
Yeah, great point, Susan. I was just going to say, we had utilized one way back in the day, and the issue that came up was outside of the home warranty. And then and Susan will understand where I'm coming from with this, because we've had a few people in our market center on the agent side that have on their personal homes that have run into this. The issue we ran into with the home warranty on this particular home way back when was they had an issue with their I apologize, their plumbing running out to the street, right? So that the exit to the street was not doing well. That ultimately ended at the foundation, right? So the gap was the concern. And I do believe it was one of our agents, Sue Doyle, that recently had a line at her house scoped, and it's not a lot of money. Now we're here offering best practices. We're not telling you how to run your business, but exploring if there's a company local to you, and you could ask your leadership, of course, which company locally you could use to explore the track from the house to the public service. That's always something to consider, or ask around and see if any veteran agents have run into that, because it's an expensive dig to fix later. When you can for maybe a couple $100, and I wish Sue were here, I can text her and find out, for maybe a couple $100 to have somebody scope the line and just get it all clear is pretty cool. Now that's different up here in Cow Hampshire. Most people keep it in their yard, which is a gross concept when you say it out loud. So if you have a septic system in your yard, that's one thing. But if you're sending it out to the city, getting that line scoped, I think it's a relatively nominal fee, as opposed to having your yard dug up later. So I'll check with our agent here about that. But just keep in mind the home warranty service. It's an attractive thing to add to, like Sue was saying, a pre-owned home with only 3 cats, 2 dogs, and 7,000 miles on it. At the same time, it does have its limitations, and you might run into some issues that are just on the other side of that paperwork.
Absolutely.
That has happened to me.
You did?
Personally. And any good service plumber can scope it. And if it's roots getting into the pipe, they can go and with circular knives that they can put down the pipe, cut out all those roots. And then the system is clear and everybody's happy. And also if your basement's backing up, that might be a cause too, that the drain has roots going into it
Mm.
and not allowing the water to flow.
Roto-Rooter can be your friend.
They're number one in the number two business. Isn't that a company? There's a septic company up here in New Hampshire, like the Blow Brothers, and they all their trucks say number one in the number two business. which is
It's
really
so
good.
awesome.
Yeah, you don't forget it. That's for
No, no. For this piece of it, this timeline, it's our job really is to make sure that like we know that those are out there. If there is a home warranty that's transferring with this property, we just need to make sure that the paperwork is in the right hands at the time of closing, because generally, if the seller's paying for that, that is paid for out of proceeds type of thing. And the the closing people will get the information for the buyers to the home warranty people and do that for you. So we don't have to get involved always in doing all of this paperwork. Again, we're the team captain. We make sure that it all gets done. And the important thing about a timeline is that we need to stay in front of it. We need to know what's going to be coming next. And we just need to be making sure that all the deadlines are being met. And if the deadline hasn't come yet, but it makes sense to do things ahead of time, do them ahead of time. Be that person so that we're definitely staying on track and people are less stressed out. We're not waiting till the last minute. And always communicate this timeline. We're communicating, I like to say we're driving the bus in both directions. We're making sure everybody on this side has been communicated to and everybody on this side has been communicated to. And pick what types of communication are the most effective for whatever's happening. Is it very quick? We have a home inspection. I'm on the way. I'm running 5 minutes late or whatever, and I can text that. Is it something that I should email? And good Lord, if it's a phone call, pick up the phone. If there's a problem on this timeline, pick up the phone, follow it up with an email. But as soon as we have any inclination that there's an issue with anything on our timeline, we need to be picking up the phone and calling everybody and making sure that all the right people are aware of it, and then be the person that is solution oriented and solving the problem. Okay. If there's a problem and you don't jump in and start communicating that and you wait, oh man, I tell you, that's going to blow up in your face so fast, because once it gets to to the emergency point, someone's going to go, well, who knew about this and when did they know? If you knew about it a week ago and you didn't do anything or start saying anything, that's a problem. You're not going to get repeat and referral business from your clients when you give them that type of experience. Sometimes when there's problems and you're the one that's solving them, that's what gets you the repeat and referral business. Not that everything went perfectly, but that you made sure everything happened and that you were calm, you were professional. When there's an issue, the buyers they have the potential to get anxiety and emotional. Our job is to stay calm and professional, because this is business for us. This isn't personal for us. So we have to stay calm. When we're communicating with the co-broke on this timeline, we need to stay calm, because however we talk to them is how they're going to talk to their side of the house. So we want them to we have to show them and coach them without knowing that we're coaching them, how to speak to their client and give them the language that they can use. Like when we're at home inspection, we have an issue. It goes like, hey, Janet, you know what? We have this issue. You have a seller that wants to sell and I have a buyer that wants to buy, but we do need to resolve this issue. Here's a proposed solution. Can you go back and talk to your folks and let me know what they think?
Absolutely. That's great, Susan. And I think giving them the words, because often they are not as coached as we are, it can make or break a deal.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And we want these agents to want to work with us again, so that when we have another buyer and they have multiple offers, do you think it matters who the agent is representing a buyer when a listing agent gets offers? You're naive if you don't think that. And I've had this debate with other people in my office who might think it shouldn't matter, but it does. It matters. So we owe it to our buyers to be the most professional person in the marketplace, because it makes the likelihood of their offers getting accepted stronger. Okay. And then the most super duper fun part is the closing, right? We get to the closing table, which is awesome part of our timeline. And when we get to the closing table, we really want this to be a good experience. The buyers are tired. Okay. So if we have a house that, they're buying, and we've been to it enough times that we know the seller getting out of that house was going to be an issue, or had the possibility of being an issue, then we will have been working with the listing agent, right, for the previous week or two, saying, have they started packing? Have they started packing? Have they started packing? How about today? How's that big pile of cans in the basement going? Did they have a solution for all the debris in the yard? We're making sure, and our buyers don't even have to know that we're doing this. What we want is to get to that closing table and have them be super happy.
Mhm.
Okay. We don't want to make the sellers feel bad, because they're doing the best that they can in the situation that they're in. We just have to make it so that our buyers are getting what they want, and we need to help that other side make sure that that's what the experience that they're going to receive. So if we know that we've gone to the showing, we've gone to the inspections, and the house has been so full of stuff, and we just know that it's going to be an issue getting that house empty and clean, then we start working with the listing agent prior to the close on that timeline to make sure that that's what the buyer is going to be receiving. And if they need resources to help them get that, then we help provide them with resources. We give them solutions to make sure that when we hit this closing table right here, see that person in the middle with their arms up? That's your buyer. That's how we want them to feel, like, yes, I have my house. This is a great day. So make it a great day for them.
Susan, I think that your point, I just want to push. Sometimes it feels like we've gone radio silent once we get them under contract, because we've been so busy connecting and showing them houses. This time is a really crucial time to cement our relationship. And that means future business, right?
Absolutely. If you have no update, you can call and say, I have no update, but you best be talking to your people every week and know who they are. I mean, I have some folks that I know, if I don't call them every other day, their stress levels are through the roof. Even if I'm calling them to say, there's nothing that we can do today, but this is we're still waiting on this, and I expect it could still take a couple more days. I'll check back in a couple more. It's 2 minutes of my time, but a lifetime of worry relieved from my client. So I need to give them the experience they need to receive. And some people only want to hear from you when you have something to say. Know your people. Know your people. The closing table, what are we doing at close on this timeline to make this a super great experience for them? Getting the house in the condition that they want to receive it in? Absolutely.
I have one question. You already talked about getting to the closing table. What about the final walkthrough? Schedule that for the day before?
Yeah, so great point, Arthur. Thank you for bringing that up. You can schedule, depending on where you're at and what state and your requirements, you can do it the day before. My eyes go on the house the day of closing, whether I represent the seller or whether I represent the buyer. So if my buyer can only go the day before, then we'll go the day before. And then I'll go back again the day of closing to make sure something didn't happen. Because you know whose fault it is if something goes wrong anywhere on this timeline? It's yours. Own it. It's going to be yours. The tree falling on the house overnight will be your problem. The water backing up into the house overnight will be your problem. And saying, oh, I was there the day before, it was fine, it's still your problem, because now your buyer signed papers and they own it. So that's my best practice and so I've had buyers that can't make the walkthrough at all. So I go do the walkthrough. And, if I do the walkthrough with the listing agent and my buyer the day before, I just let the listing agent know, you know what, I just can't close on a property if I don't have my eyeballs on it. Do you want me to take the key? You don't have to meet me there. I'm happy to run through by myself. Do you want to meet me there? Whatever. But I like putting my eyes on the property the day of closing. So if I have a 9 a.m. closing, yeah, I'm there at 8, you know. But I also can let my buyers know, you know what? I was there this morning and everything looks great still. That last piece of, you know, the last mattress that had to get out of the house did get out of the house, especially if you go the day before and not everything's out and the seller's like, oh, I'll have it out. Don't worry. No, yeah, definitely worry. You know, people intend to maybe get it out, but if they didn't, you know, they think that your buyer wanted that half empty bottle of cleaning supplies. Nope. Nobody wants that.
So what happens if you show up the day of and things that they said were going to be gone or cleaned out or whatever? What if that isn't done? Well, how do you
Yeah.
handle that?
Well, that's so fun because that happens all the time. You know, I would lie if I said I never walked away from a final walkthrough with stuff loaded in my car. I
Actually,
have.
that happened to me and it was awful. We did the walkthrough the day before and it was loaded with cleaning supplies. The drawers were all full and I didn't have enough room in my car and I called the listing agent and he said, oh, I'll call whatever, some place that'll like just, he's like, if you could just leave it out in the driveway and just bag it and, you know, maybe you could put it in boxes. And he's telling me to do all this stuff. And I'm like, are you serious? But I mean, you do it. And I did it. But
Yep.
it consumed more than half of my day.
Yeah.
Did you drop that off at his office when you were done?
I know I should have. He did end up showing up in the end with like I had to get my husband like to bring me the SUV. Like it was just, but I mean, it was $1 million sale. So I wasn't gonna complain too much about it. So
Absolutely. And you know, that's why like I do start checking in with the listing agent at least a week, sometimes 2, depending on the property, to find out where we're at. And sometimes you get to this point and this is where you have to start negotiating again. But be calm. You still have a buyer that wants to buy and a seller that wants to sell. You know, so if it's a matter of, okay, I've got to call my clean out person and they're going to come over and they're going to charge your seller, or you know what, I'm going to talk to my seller, I'm going to talk to my buyer and I'll be right back with you. And I'll come up with some solution options with my buyer. And it might be that, you know what, have your seller take their checkbook out and for $500, they can leave all of this stuff here and we're happy to take care of it. We know it's a burden for your seller. I didn't say, your loser seller left all this shit in the house. What are you going to do to take care of it? I said, no, you guys can pay us $500 and we're happy for them to leave it. And I'm sure that would make life easier for your seller.
So I didn't know what to do because I didn't have that experience and I'm not an experienced agent. So I called the attorney and asked, you know, what can we do about this? And she said, well, we could just hold back money. So I don't know, was that the right thing to do?
I think the
have any
right thing to do is
guidance.
to get your buyer in that house and as happy as they can. And I have had to put stuff in my car. I've also shown up and had, you know, like the lawn not mowed. And I've had my buyer be like, you know what, this doesn't bother me at all. So I can't assume that it's going to bother them. Because I was like, in my head, I pull up to a walkthrough and the grass is like 3 feet tall. And I'm like, okay, if I call my landscaper and I do this, it's going to cost this. I'm going to have to get that. My buyer was like, you know what, Susan, don't even worry about it because I've not owned a home in so long. I'm happy to mow this. Great. Let's go in the house and see what else it looks like. You know, don't assume that there's going to be a problem when there isn't a problem. And you know what, the listing agent, we need a good reputation in our marketplace. So we don't ever want to be snarky about this situation because guess what? You're going to have a seller someday that does this. You will. You don't think you will. I have one right now. He was supposed to have the house emptied out. We're closing on Friday. He was going in this weekend to get everything taken out. And now, mind you, the house has been vacant since we listed it. So he just has to do the rest of that stuff that they think isn't going to take that long. I went Monday morning before I went to my office to see how he did over the weekend, and it's not done. So, you know your person, know the property. If it's going to be a problem, I started Friday by letting him know what empty means. Because he's like, oh, I'm going to leave that plywood. I'm going to leave this. I'm like, empty is empty, broom clean is broom clean. Nobody wants that stuff. So you have to know when to be direct with your people. Nobody wants that stuff. Nobody wants your cleaning supplies. Nobody wants your nasty mop that you're cleaning with. Take your mop, take your broom, take your cleaning supplies. Empty is empty. Unless it was in writing somewhere, empty means empty. So that's kind of how I handle that. Great topic to bring up, the final walkthrough. So I would definitely say from a buyer timeline, start, before a week or two before close. That's when you need to start checking in with the listing agent on empty and broom clean. If there were items that were negotiated that have to be taken care of due to the home inspection, that's when you start, a couple weeks prior to closing, has that been taken care of? Can I have the receipts for that? Can you send me pictures so that we know that that's done? Now I can check that off my list and move forward. Okay, but we want our buyers to be happy at the closing table. It really can be a super fun experience when the buyers and sellers are at the closing table and they're chatting and they're laughing, and there's things about the house that only the seller knows. If you wiggle this door handle a little bit more, oh, I always hide my key to, when the kids lock the bathroom door or whatever, it's fun for them to have that experience. So if you can remove all the stress of, was it empty? Was everything taken care of? And now they're sitting down at the closing table and they can just have that relationship with the property transferring. That's the experience that we want to give them. Okay. Cool. We're going to keep moving and we're going to just change hats. Does anyone else have anything on the buyer timeline before we flip over to the seller timeline? Okay. So building a seller timeline, some of the same pieces are here, and but it is very different when we're working with the sellers. So we do start with an accepted offer, which is the executed contract. What I didn't mention on the about the executed contract when we were talking about the buyer side, but I do actually do this with regardless of which side. When there's deadlines within a contract and contingencies, I need to make sure that both sides agree on what that is. We need to agree on the dates, because believe it or not, some people, in New Hampshire and Maine, once everybody signs a contract and it gets delivered back to the agent, that's what we call our effective date. Not everybody, I've had very seasoned agents be like, well, it got signed at 11 o'clock at night, so I put tomorrow's date on that. No. We don't change the rules because it's 11 o'clock at night. So we need to have some agreement as to what our dates are, because it's only a problem when it's a problem. So if we have a date for inspections, before we even get to inspections, I want to make sure that we all agree on what our inspection deadline is, on what our effective date is, on, if we have a finance deadline in there. We need to all be in agreement on these dates, because if something is missed, we don't want someone to go, oh, well, that actually deadline was up yesterday. So when we have an accepted offer or an executed contract, I shoot an email over to the other side saying, really looking forward to working with you. These are the dates that I have for the contract. Can you please confirm that you agree with these dates? Now I'm just setting us up for a successful transaction to close with the co-broke, because I really want that co-broke to like working with me. It's important that they respect me, but if I don't want there to be a problem. Anything I can do to eliminate problems and be a solution-oriented person will be put me in a better light for them to want to continue working with me with other folks in the future, right? And so the executed contract, we want to prepare our sellers too for what those deadlines are. So once we get that accepted offer and we are fully executed with that contract, we need to go through that with the seller. Again, I go through it line by line again with them because what's the one line that they really look at when they go under agreement? Any takers?
The money line.
The money line. They didn't look at all the other lines, you know? Even if they did, they might not remember what those other lines are. They want to know what they're getting. So it's important that they understand what the process is once we have that accepted offer. We need to prepare them for what does the inspection look like, which is our next step in the timeline. So when we're talking about inspections from a seller's timeline, the seller has to prepare the home for inspection. And it's really important that they do this the right way because, you know, you're going to go into those houses where at the showing, there's so much stuff in the house, in the basement, that you can't even get to the furnace. Do you even know where the scuttle hole is for the attic? As a listing agent, you should, because we need to prepare our sellers that an inspector is going to need to see all 4 walls of that basement. So if it's really full, they need to get that stuff, get into the center of the room. The buyer and the inspector should be able to walk around the parameter of the basement of the house. You agreed to the contract. We have an accepted offer where you said, yes, I'm agreeing to allowing you to do inspections. You need to have the home now ready to be inspected. So they need to be able to get to the furnace. They need to be able to see all 4 walls of the basement. They need to be able to get to all the systems. If there's a water filtration system or whatever, they need to be able to get to the appliances. You know, they're going to run the dishwasher. They're going to be checking water temperature. They need to get to the attic. So if it's a pull down attic, make sure that it's able to be pulled down. If it's a scuttle hole, I don't want to touch your clothes. Okay? So if it's a scuttle hole in a closet, say, you know what, they're going to access the attic. Please have that accessible because the inspector is going to come in with a ladder and they have to get up there. So please remove your clothes from the hanger, from the rod, so that they can do that. So whatever it is, we want to prepare them. It's going to take a couple hours. So we were going to ask you to leave the house for a couple of hours so that the buyer can be in there. And
Susan?
hi.
Hi, I'm sorry to interrupt. I'm just a little confused about what inspection are you talking about?
The home inspection.
The buyers, when the buyer's inspection?
Yeah.
Well,
Yeah, the seller has to have the house ready to be inspected.
Oh, the way this is set up, it looks like, you know, the seller is doing a special inspection before we put it on MLS and then we you know, do the open house and all
Oh,
that.
no, we are
This is
still
the buyer's inspection you're
we
talking
are still talking specifically about the timeline for contract to close. So we're under contract. We have an accepted offer. We're under contract. And now the timeline for a seller is that we're under contract and then there's going to be an inspection. So the buyer is going to come in and inspect the property. So there are responsibilities that the seller has to make sure that the buyer can inspect the property. And then what's going to happen, right? So if there's a significant issue or defect that was found that wasn't disclosed, we need to prepare the seller that the buyer may come back and want to negotiate on that.
Accepting offer. Oh, okay. I guess I was looking at it wrong. Because
Okay.
it's my experience that I guess before they even throw it on MLS, you're telling your seller, you got to do this, you got to do the landscaping. Like you said, you've got to clean the cellar out, you've got to do everything.
You may. That may be part
know,
of your listing
house.
presentation for sure. And which I please do. I mean, you definitely, this shouldn't be the first time they're hearing this, right? For sure.
Right.
But
Oh, okay.
for purposes of today, we're talking about just contract to close timeline.
Oh, okay. All right. I'm sorry.
No, no worries. Good question. Thanks for clarifying because other people probably had that question too.
Okay.
But I think it is important, right? But to make sure the seller understands what's going to happen at an inspection. We really don't want them there. You know, I have had sellers that insisted on staying, which is awkward, but we want to let them know that they should leave for a couple hours, and we should be there. Okay. The listing agent, we're talking about a seller timeline. So, when we were talking about the buyer inspection, the buyer's agent should be there. But when we're representing the seller, I think it's important that we're there. We're there to, if something was, because as soon as the inspection's over, they're going to go, did anything happen? If you weren't there, you can't tell them.
So
Right?
actually, I just have a question, because I was actually told, do not go to the home inspection, because if you hear anything during the home inspection, you're then obligated to disclose that information if the offer falls through, and you have to put it back on the market. So is that, I don't know, was that
That
the
wouldn't be
wrong?
the advice. I don't want to, I don't know what the other agent, I'm assuming it was an agent that told you that. I'll give you my best practice. My best
Okay,
practice
thanks.
is I want to know everything about the house. From a seller perspective, the most protection they can have going into this is to disclose everything. So we have to have lengthy conversations with our sellers on the importance of, prior to accepted offer, that we have disclosed, disclosed, disclosed every defect that we know about that property. We want to create a great transaction to close process for our sellers. We do that by getting them under contract with a buyer that knows everything that we can possibly tell them about the house. So in my opinion, Nina, you should go to the home inspection. And if you do find out something about the property that you didn't know before, and maybe the seller didn't know, I mean, God knows what an inspector would find at my house. If this deal falls apart for whatever reason and we go back on the market, now we just have more to disclose to the next buyer, and we reduce the likelihood of the deal falling apart a second time. More disclosure is better. If there's a major issue at a property inspection and you're not there and you don't know about it and they just pull out of the deal and you go under contract again and that buyer brings in an inspector, they're going to find the same defect.
Well, more often than not too, Susan, when they do come back with their discovery from the inspection, they're going to present that and usually ask to have the seller work on it together, some sort of a concession on the price. And if that creates the deal to, come to an end without a closing, yeah, I mean, even if you're not present, Nina, you're still going to get information from the buyers. I would presume you're going to get information from the buyers that once that's put in front of you, it's sort of like you've been served. Like you now have the information in front of you, and it's incumbent upon us to now make that public notice when we go on the market again, because an educated buyer's agent, Noah's going to march up to you and be like, hey, so I noticed you guys went back online. What happened with the prior buyer? Like, why are you back online? Why is it available to the public again? Well, we ran into this, and they we were gonna fix it. They weren't comfortable with it. Some people, mold. I won't pontificate about flooding basements, because we can all talk about Mother's Day 2005. I know I've already done that. We don't know, even if we're willing to fix it, it might have been a non-starter for that buyer. And to Susan's point, it wasn't that the seller was disingenuous. They just didn't even know about it. Like, raise your hand if you've lived in your house for more than 10 years. There's stuff going on. I hope I die in there. I don't want to have to find out. So great question, Nina.
Absolutely. And you know what? It gives your seller a chance to fix it too. So, I've been in that scenario where I'm at an inspection and they're like, some things have come up that I can get my seller on the phone or on a text while we're inspecting. I've had sellers already call electricians before we're even completed with the inspection, because something might have been discovered that they didn't know about. And, I give the sellers the benefit of the doubt that they want to do the right thing. Some sellers just have such a high level of standard. They're like, oh no, that's not grounded on, my electrician's going to be there before the end of the day. So I think the more that we know, the better, because as soon as the inspection's over, your seller's going to ask, how did it go? And you need to be able to answer them. And also, we are in this point, right? We've got a seller that wants to sell and a buyer that wants to buy. We got to get to the table. We have two agents and lenders that all want to close this transaction. So I'm an advocate for going to your inspections. Not to go to the inspection to butt in, because arguing with a home inspector will only backfire on you. We don't do that, because it makes you look bad. It makes you look like you might be trying to cover something up when you're arguing with them. However, they're not always right. So if they're saying, something about the property, and you can get the seller on the line and clear something up, maybe they say, I don't know anything about how to use that. If you can get your seller on the phone, you might be able to fix it, and then have the inspector go back and say, you know what, that worked, and now we're good to go. Go ahead, Noah.
So I just kind of want to go back to when you were talking about making sure there's access to everything, without naming companies or names or anything. When we bought our house, the inspector said we're unable to get into the basement crawl space because it's, secured in such a way. We did know there was mold that was supposedly remediated. So we weren't able to get access with the home inspector, but they said, it's been remediated, blah, blah, blah. When I moved in, I pried the cover off and found 18 inches of water, mold everywhere, and no moisture barrier that was supposed to be done. So that turned into like a major nightmare, and just made me think in future, I don't care if there's no access, I'll go out and buy the tools to pry that off the wall if need be.
Yeah. So when you're showing properties, I'm sorry that happened to you. That really stinks. And they may have remediated it at one point, but if you don't fix what's causing the mold, it's only going to come back.
They sprayed it with something and walked away. They never took the insulation out. They didn't do anything that was in the contract. So we had to threaten them with a lawsuit, and they finally were like, whoa, 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 whoa.
Yeah. Yeah.
They hit it with some PAM and some WD-40 and it didn't take. So yeah.
Right.
Yeah. Back to the drawing board, damn it.
Define remediated. Buying your own bleach and putting it on there doesn't count. But when we're showing homes, or if we are listing them and we see those areas, those are great opportunities for you guys to serve your clients. So if I had the buyer in that scenario and I saw that crawl space and I knew we were doing inspections, I might even write in something in my contract saying that we need to have access to that. If I have the seller and I see that crawl space, I'm definitely going to ask about looking in there and trying to head that off. This is where I will promote doing a pre-inspection if you have the seller. And if you have the seller, you can do an inspection on your home prior to listing the property. There's so many benefits to doing that. Because now as a seller, I pre-inspect the property. I already know everything. Now I'm being told what all the problems are in the house. I have the opportunity to fix them on my own dime, or not fix them, but disclose them. So Noah, when you go in and do your inspection, if I've already disclosed it, you can't negotiate with me on that because I've already disclosed something to you.
Are you saying that you're doing the inspection? You personally are doing the pre-inspection?
Well, not me personally. I hire a home inspector to do a professional home inspection.
Oh, so you would do that before the MLS kind of
Yeah,
thing? Just
I'm a
as
big fan. I'm a big fan of that.
Okay.
How much protection are you giving your seller now?
Well,
how much are you increasing the likelihood of having an awesome contract to close process?
Are you
you've already done that?
Are you going to pay for that, or is the seller going to pay for that?
There's many times when I pay for it, and there's many times where I have the seller pay for it. So it all depends on the money, honey. If I'm getting a good commission, then I'll pay for it. If I'm not, if I'm not getting as top dollar of a commission as I like to get, then I'm not paying for it. But there's still a lot of benefits to having it. So it really depends. And sometimes it's just necessary to make sure that we have a smooth transaction.
Your reputation is on the line.
It is. And you know what? We're going to talk about this in a little bit, repeat and referral business. When I give this awesome experience to a seller, their home is pre-inspected, we get offers, 80% out. Now we'll take this crazy market out of the numbers here for people not doing an inspection, because that's not normal, nor is it really great. 80% of the time, 90% of the time, a buyer won't do an inspection if a reputable home inspection has been provided prior to them making an offer. And yes, I make them put that in writing. Buyer has received and reviewed home inspection prior to making an offer as full disclosure. So that might be on, that might even take inspections right off the timeline for your seller. And you know what that does for your seller? Takes so much stress out of this contract to close process.
Right.
And when they go out to dinner or their neighborhood block party, I'm the hero. And I need that's part of my business, right? I need them to say good things about me. How's it going selling your home? You know what? It's really great. The Kenyans are knocking it out of the park. Oh,
So,
how are they doing that? Maybe that's one of the reasons.
so is that what you're gonna do when, with the seller, is you're gonna pay for an inspection and then you're gonna have the report in hand? So are you gonna attach it to the seller's disclosure
Some of the
document? Do you attach it like at the end that, like two documents together that this has been done so that buyers can see that it's already passed like your inspection, and you can have one too, but we've done this,
There are times when I put it on the MLS and there are times that I don't. But I always make sure that every buyer's agent has that prior to seeing the home.
okay.
I need the buyer to have that prior to viewing the home and prior to making an offer. Because if I'm sitting on a home inspection and they don't see it before they make an offer, I just wasted $700 on the home inspection. It has no value
Right.
to my seller.
Well, and especially in this marketplace, Susan, it's a massive value add for the buyer. If the buyer's agent turns to their buyer and says, well, quite honestly, Mr. Lindsay, if we were going to do a home inspection, I'd probably be calling Todd anyway. So I'm really confident with this. But again, it's information they have. They can conduct their own inspection. And then above and beyond that, the thing we need to remember, and again, we're having a 6-state conversation. Welcome everybody from New England. But in beautiful downtown Cowhampshire, if you were going to mitigate air radon, if you were going to put in an air radon system to mitigate that, right? It's ballparkish about $1,100-$1,200, Susan. Yeah. If your buyer after an inspection runs a radon and they want to get the number below 4, guess what they're going to ask for? More than $1,200, right? So you can either pay the 12 and take the ammunition out of the conversation, or you can say, we've never done radon, we don't care. And again, we're not telling you have to. There are bits and pieces of this total home inspection that you could conduct. Because if I lived in a neighborhood, and I knew that everybody else in my neighborhood, and this is some of the intel that Command is going to start to gather for us. Don't forget, right? If I live in a neighborhood and I can sit at the kitchen table with the Lindsays and say, hey guys, just so you know, the last 7 houses to sell in this neighborhood, these 2 streets here, the last 7 houses have been north of 4 on air radon. If we get ahead of that for $1,200, the buyers aren't coming back for $4,000, $5,000. If they're feeling frisky, 6. Well, why would they ask for more money? 2 words, write this down: human nature. Like that's why they're gonna ask for more money, because it's gonna come off the paperwork as a credit to them. That's why. Yep. So we can get ahead of a lot of things. And to Susan's point, you become the hero. Our buyers and sellers want 2 things. They want to do it quickly and they want to do it at their price. And if we can net more for our sellers and save more for our buyers, and we are, we're here to just provide more information and best practices. Mm-hmm. Like the way we say it to you guys, we're not here to tell you how to run your business. We're here to offer best practices. I'm not telling you how to buy this house, although we do this every day. And we found, Feel Felt Found, one of my favorite scripts. I understand how you feel. You don't want to do it, right? We've had a lot of clients that have felt the same way. And what we found is when we run air radon in advance, you can pay $1,200 now, maybe, or $6,000 later, probably. Check the appropriate box, right? Yep. And most of them are like, oh, I'd like to save money and get this out of the way.
Yeah. How about if you have a seller that has to also buy, and now you're going to be stacking up closings? If you offer a pre-inspection, the likelihood of having an inspection by your buyer when you go under decreases. It also allows the seller the opportunity to disclose everything and or to fix things, which makes the likelihood of this transaction to close actual happen. If you have maybe an older home and you don't do any of this and there's gonna be stuff, you're risking a buyer walking away during a transaction. How's that going to impact your seller if they're also purchasing on the back end? So what we're doing here is also trying to eliminate stress, because sellers are under a lot of stress. And when we're working with buyers, we need to let them know that it's really stressful to be a seller. It's super duper stressful to be a seller. So as a selling listing agent, whatever we can do to reduce stress is part of our job. So we're going to get them through the inspection process. We're going to prepare them for the inspection. We're going to make sure the house is ready for inspection. We're going to let them know it's going to take a couple of hours and that we will be there. So we're going to set expectations and we're going to over communicate here. And then as soon as it's over, we're going to be moving that process of moving past an inspection contingency as quickly as we possibly can.
So Susan, I think this is a great toolbox of options that you can offer to your seller, because as you noted, every deal is different. Every seller is different, and it depends on what you're going to offer them.
Yeah.
But you're talking about what's going to happen after contract, and that's why you suggest the pre-inspection. Not every seller is going to take you up on it, but boy, it's nice to have that done. Great tips.
Yeah, and you know what? If they can't do it, and you got a good commission on the line, yeah, you're right. I'm going to pay for that because I need this contract to close to happen, right? Sometimes you have to spend money to save money. You have to spend money to earn more money. We do more things and put more money out there for our clients than people in other industries. Doctors don't do this. They don't buy our prescriptions for people. We're not in that business. We're in the business of making sure we provide good experiences for our clients. Attorneys don't pay bail if I get in trouble. We do, we pay. But it is also how we increase our future business. So I'm going to take a break because I know that appraisals is going to take me more than 5 minutes to finish and closing to finish this slide, and we're kind of past our bio break
Yeah,
here.
last time we timed appraisals, it was about 7.5 minutes. We're all looking forward to that. Yeah.
So if this is a good time for you guys for a break, why don't we break and come back at 10:40? Does that work?
Yep.
Is 6 minutes enough?
Yep.
Okay. I will come back in 6 minutes, and if you guys are a little bit later, I'll just chat with whoever has a question.
Hello?
Hello.
I'm going to wait just another minute. That 6 minutes went by really fast. Does anyone have any questions while we wait?
I had a question.
Sure.
If I have the buyer and we're doing an inspection, and at the end of the inspection, we get a report that its radon is 6. What is the course of action then?
It depends. It's such a lawyer answer, I know. You know what? The thing about responding to inspections is it's really not about us at all. It's about the buyer and the seller. So when I work with a buyer and it comes back at 6, I let them know, what would you like to do? The federal guideline is, anything below 4 is acceptable. Anything over 4 should be remediated. And I've had buyers be like, I'm fine with 6.
Really?
I also have yeah. I've also, it's their call, not mine. And I don't have any judgment around those things. I've had buyers in their, 80s be like, you know what? Radon's not going to do anything to me now. I'm just being transparent. That's what they said. And if they want to do that, that's up to them. I've also had scenarios where radon could come back at 6 and I have the seller, and maybe I've already made a lot of concessions to that buyer, and they come back and ask for radon and my seller has said no. Nobody has to do anything. Okay. But what we do have to do is communicate why we're asking for what we're asking for and why we're responding the way that we're responding. So if I have the 6 and the buyer wants to remediate, and the seller maybe has already done a lot of concessions, I might prepare my buyer that, okay, we can ask for this, but just like when we go under contract, who remembers what the 3 options are? You can accept, you can reject, or you can counter. The same thing with an inspection, right? If you have the buyer, the seller could say, yep, I'm going to put that in, no problem. Or I'm going to give you a credit for that at closing. The seller could say, nope, I'm not going to do it. Walk if you want to walk. Or he could counter and say, you know what, I'll split that with you and give you, and which I just had by the way, I just had that scenario where I had the seller and the radon actually came back really high. It was like over 20, really high.
Wow. Wow.
But you know what? The seller has given the buyer so much personal property. Dining room set, hutch, hot tub. I mean, like a ton of stuff that my seller was like, you know what? I've given enough. I'm not giving him any more. It's $1,200 for a mitigation system. He can put it in after he closes.
Oh,
We have
okay.
a really good contract. So I said, you know what, Jody? You have 3 options. You can say yes, you can say no, or you can counter. And a reasonable counter could say, I'll split the difference with you, which would be like a $750 credit. How do you feel about that?
If the buyer wants to back out,
He was let him back out.
then just let him back out and just let him walk. Okay.
And sometimes you're hedging bets here. Sometimes you're saying the likelihood of that buyer backing out in the market that we're in was very small.
That's right. They've gone so far and
Okay.
they've gone so far. Yep.
Yeah. But I do not like, I very strongly believe that this contract to close process should feel like a win-win for everybody.
Right.
A win for my seller and a win for the other person's buyer.
Absolutely.
Okay. So I did coach in that scenario that, you got X number of dollars over asking price. Yes, you're right. You are giving them all of this money. But sometimes creating a win looks like both sides give a little bit. And how about we split the difference? And that was reasonable to my seller and he agreed. And now we are moving forward, continuing with a happy buyer and a happy seller, because we could still have more hurdles to get through together before we actually hit the closing table.
Right.
right?
Oh, thank you. Thank you. That's very good to know.
Yep. And another good script here when we're going to be battling over inspections is, so say in this scenario, the buyer wants to ask for a mitigation system and the seller does not want to offer that. But we need to meet in the middle. And I'm talking now to the co-broke. And remember, I'm coaching the co-broke on how I want them to go back to their side and communicate with their person. I might say something like, you know what, Rita? Your buyer feels like this over the radon, and they're right. And my seller feels like this over the radon, and they're right. They both just have different perspectives. How are we going to meet in the middle? Because we have a buyer that wants to buy and a seller that wants to sell. We're 30 days from closing. I know between the two of us, we can make this happen.
Absolutely.
Now, do you want to work with me or are we fighting?
Exactly.
Right?
Exactly.
You'd give
Good
me a
point.
chance. Yeah.
Yep.
Okay.
That works.
Yeah. So we're going to get through that inspection, and we're then going to move on to the next thing in the timeline, and that's going to be the appraisal. So, with the sellers, it's all about setting up expectations and over communicating. So the appraisal process right now in this market is very stressful. So we're letting them know, we should have been talking about this whole process prior to going under contract, so that now as we're talking about it, they're going, oh yes, I remember you telling me that. So we want to let them know that the appraisal is going to happen. And depending on what the loan type is, will depend on what types of things are being looked at the appraisal. So if it's a conventional loan, that's the easiest one. The home visit is like 20 minutes. And yes, again, we are there for that. Okay. We get paid a lot of money to do what we do. We need to show up to these things. Now there's debate here where some people say, well, do you bring closed comps for your appraiser? Do you bring a copy of the purchase and sales agreement to your appraiser? What do you give to your appraiser? My best practice is I do not bring them comps. I've been down that road and it can backfire on me. They know how to run comps unless I have a really unique property. I do bring a copy of the purchase and sales agreement. Every once in a while, they haven't been given one, and I need them to know the number that we're hitting. What I am doing is, remember, we're in a relationship business. I'm meeting the appraiser as the listing agent at the property, and I'm building relationship. I'm selling. This is a sales job. Okay. We're always selling, and we sell during the appraisal. So know your property, because they might not have looked at the disclosures. So we're pointing out all of the selling features that add value to the property, so that we make sure that when they go back and run comps, that they understand if maybe it's a new roof, maybe it's a new furnace, maybe it's a brand new kitchen, maybe the kitchen cabinets are custom made. Those things all add dollar value to an appraisal. I need to make sure that the appraiser knows that. I need to make sure that they know that, you know what, as you're comping this out, if you have any questions on this property, please reach out to me before you submit your report. I'm only going to be able to do that if I am smiling and happy and helpful at the appraisal.
Can I
I'm
make a
also-
suggestion?
Sure.
I also find it very helpful to have the house still be staged when the appraiser comes. If you have
Yep.
the house staged.
Yep. The hard thing about that is right now I'm seeing appraisals come in at like 2 weeks before closing sometimes. If they can still have it staged and still be able to get out in time, the better the house looks, the better impression the appraiser gets, the higher value they're going to give, right?
Yep.
Yeah, absolutely, Nina.
And clean.
And clean. Yeah. Yeah, we don't want it to look like there's deferred maintenance here. Absolutely. Definitely good points. They're going to be taking pictures of every room. And if it's an FHA or a VA appraisal, they're going to be looking for things like peeling paint anywhere on the property. Even conventional, if there's a ton of peeling paint all over the property, you could have problems there. So know what your appraiser is going to be walking into and how you're going to be communicating that stuff. And then, we ask the appraiser, what's your turn-in date, so that we know what expectations to communicate back to our seller. They might be there, but they might not today, but not plan on getting their report turned in for another 2 weeks. It's important that we know that, so that we can let the lender know that we met them, and that's what they said. We can let our seller know. We can let the co-broke know. Everybody right now is on pins and needles waiting for this appraisal to come in. Okay. And, then we're getting, and again, communication is like, the jimmies on a donut. It's sprinkled in everywhere here. As soon as something happens, we're communicating to everybody to let them know. Even when we have the seller, we're communicating back to the lender, right? We still talk to the lender even when we have the seller. We talk to the buyer's lender every week, all the time, making sure everything's on track, making sure that we're all a team. And then we're getting to the closing table, which again, we want to create an awesome experience for our seller. And when we have a seller that has like all that stuff in the house, like my guy right now, I'm communicating with him every day, and I'm going to the house every day to see where he's at with the stuff in the house. Because if we get to the closing and the walkthrough and there's still stuff in the house, it's going to be a problem. And that's going to create an incredible amount of stress for my seller. So I might be being kind of a pain right now about empty the house, empty the house, empty the house, but it will save him on closing day that we have a good experience for the buyer. Because you would pay now or you pay later, but pay you must. Okay, that stuff has to be emptied out. So when we have sellers that have a challenge with that, we need to help them with that. And we need to find resources for them when they're having a hard time. So part of your resource during this week before getting to the closing table could be, here's the number for the clean out people. I'm noticing you still have all this stuff. It has to be gone. Are you getting it out today, or do you need to make that phone call today? But one of those two things has to happen. And sometimes you have to be really direct, okay? Because moving out and cleaning out a house takes a lot longer than a lot of sellers realize. They don't think it's going to take as long as it does, but it does. So if they're not going to be able to get to it, you need to give them the resources that they need to get the jobs done and that they pay for. Okay, mowing, this is also where we need to let our sellers know. You need to maintain the property right up to closing. And in the summer, that means mowing. In the fall, that means raking leaves. In the winter, that means that the driveways have to be plowed and the walkways need to be shoveled. So we're maintaining the home up until closing. If it's a vacant house, we need the systems to be running when the appraisal gets there. Leave those systems on until closing. And then the buyer will transfer over utilities into their name. But we're setting the expectations for the seller so that we have a good, positive transaction. Hey, Noah.
Another fun thing to add, make sure the oil and propane is full. Because we walked into our house 2 weeks after making an offer to check out some stuff for a contractor, and the heat had run out and a pipe burst in the kitchen and ruined the entire kitchen.
Man, is this on the same house?
Oh yeah, it was a nightmare start to finish.
Are you still living there?
Yep.
There you go.
We have a new kitchen though.
Oh, there you go. Yeah, if it's the winter time, that the furnace has to still be running, guys. And I've had sellers that have moved out or money has been really tight. I have paid to put oil in tanks.
They also saw your name was Noah. They figured you'd appreciate a good flood.
Oh.
Try the veal. We'll be here all week.
But
David doesn't like that. Love you too, David. Love you, buddy.
That was a good one. And you know what? We're at the closing table. We want them to be happy. We want it to be a good experience. So whatever we can do to make that happen, we're setting the expectation. It's going to take this much time to close. This is where it's going to be. You need to bring ID, set the stage, make sure that everybody, and you know what sellers do? They forget. You can tell them we're closing at this location. that morning, text them again because they forget. They have so much going on, and it's so much work to be a seller that you're over communicating all of the time. Okay. Does anybody have any questions or more thoughts on the seller timeline?
Does Rocket Mortgage people, do they put in time like this to, from, you know, opening to close? Or what do they do? Send their people in state to kind of do this work? Because, you know, people have the misconception that Rocket Mortgage, that you're going to close faster because you sign up with them. But really, they take just as long, if not longer, to close than just us.
Yeah. Yeah. You know, how to be a strong buyer is to have a local lender.
Exactly.
How to be a strong buyer, for sure.
I have a question. When you have issues with the seller not clearing something out, do you suggest that they go rent a storage unit someplace fairly local and have like the dump guy or somebody come just get the stuff and throw it in storage and they deal with it after the close?
You know, it depends. I've had sellers that I've had to, I knew it was going to be a problem. So I go up there a few days before closing and it's not done. And I've had to call our clean out people, and I let the sellers know we're calling. I don't ask them if they want to call at this point. I'm letting them know what we're doing. And the conversation goes like, we're calling New England Pickers. They're going to come give us a price. They're going to be here in the morning. They're going to take care of all of this stuff and throw it away. And they're going to charge you and you're going to pay them. Oh, and then we're going to close because we're not closing if those things don't happen. Okay, Susan. Okay. I've also had the scenario where my seller said it was all going to be out and we go to the walkthrough and it's not. And then
Surprise.
right?
Isn't this fun?
And she's like, oh, that dishwasher that you wheel over to the sink and have to put on the faucet that I said nobody wanted, you really thought they still wanted that? No. And it's the same thing, but said with kindness, you know, Janet, nobody wants that stuff. It's got to be gone. It was part of the contract. Now this is where staying in relationship with your co-broker is important, because we still signed, but I let her know I have New England Pickers coming. I'm on the phone with them right now. While we're signing, they're going to be here taking care of that stuff. I have a good reputation in the market. My co-broker and I have worked together in the past. She's familiar with the same resource that I'm using. We're able to solve a problem and have everyone sign. Nobody got upset. Nobody raised their voice. Nobody got snarky. This is business for me and the other agent, and it's personal for the buyer and seller, but we're going to make it all work.
And you
So it
know,
all depends.
imagine how the seller will feel if you don't do that and it gets to closing day and they can't close because they haven't got their stuff out.
Yeah.
So you're really a hero.
Yeah. You know, I've had a buyer where I had clients that were selling their house and we went to the walkthrough and it was great. And we were doing these the day before and then closing the next, and then closing. Actually, we were supposed to close that day. We closed the seller side. We went to the walkthrough of the property they were purchasing. And it was a weaker agent. There was so much stuff left in the house. They had laundry running in the washing machine. There was so much stuff in the house. The moving truck wasn't even there. The U-Haul wasn't even there yet. There was no way it was getting out. And there was no way my buyer was going to be signing with the house looking like that. And the listing agent just couldn't do it. She could not get them together. So I pulled the listing agent aside. I talked to my folks first. And I said, this is what we're doing. The seller's going to put you up in a hotel room. They're going to pay for your pets to be kenneled overnight at Petco, at whatever, Canine Chaos. And the listing agent's going to stay here with them until this house is empty and we're going to have to close tomorrow. Will that solution work for you? Yes. Then I called in the listing agent. This is what we're doing. Your people are paying for a hotel. They're paying for a kennel, and you are staying here. Cancel whatever plans you had, because you're not leaving this house until it's empty. And when
Prefaced
it's
by the
empty,
fact that
call me
my
back.
buyer's already agreed to this, right?
Yeah.
You start that conversation with, so by the way, Ted, my buyer's already okayed this. Let me tell you what we're gonna do.
Yeah,
This is how
we're gonna
you're
do
keep
this.
This is how we're gonna keep the deal together. Great, that's a great script.
And she was grateful because there was a solution, right? And it made sense. I mean, the sellers just got overwhelmed and they just couldn't deliver, but we can help them to deliver. But you got to pay. The seller's got to pay in a situation like that. So you just have to be
David?
solution oriented.
David had asked earlier about like a storage space. And I think to get in front of that, just asking the question, and again, that's our job, is to just stay in curiosity and keep asking questions. Mr. Lindsay, do you feel like you guys are gonna have a lot of stuff that you might want to get started now? Are you gonna get a storage space, or will it be transitional? Because the pushback historically on having a pod in your driveway is, we don't want to look desperate. We don't want to look like we're in a rush. Well, I like you a lot, but let's keep this inside of a 90-day window, right? Like, I mean, if we put a pod in the driveway, they know you're moving, right? I mean, showing that sort of a motivation that we do intend to leave this home doesn't mean you're going to take an awful offer, which nobody's done in the last 18 months anyway. So that guy, like a dumpster in the yard transitionally to cull some of the stuff that you're going to get rid of, and then a pod in the yard, so they can, systematically over time while they're listed, move some stuff into a space that could be moved all at once, or whatever the case, because the moving truck's expensive to sit there and idle for a month. But a pod in your driveway, I don't think that shows desperation. Everybody feels differently about this, but Susan nailed it when she said they will always underestimate how long it will take them to get to broom swept. They will all, in the history of mankind, the infamous sentence, "I'll get you all a shirt. We didn't realize it would take this long." .com. I already bought the website. There's a whole bunch of confused sellers on the homepage. It's ridiculous. So our job is to remind them, I appreciate you've sold a few homes, Mr. Lindsay. Me and my team do this every day. Feel, felt, found. I understand you feel it won't take that long. We've had a lot of clients that have felt the same way. And what we found is we get to the walkthrough and people are overwhelmed. So let's start to underwhelm the process by unwinding that now and getting a pod or whatever we need. Just getting ahead of it.
Yeah, absolutely.
I have another one for you. If you don't do it, they're going to blame the broker. And I've already bought that one. Blamethebroker.com.
Yep. That is so true. It's always our fault, people. It's always our fault. Oh my goodness. And so, part of all of this, right, is communication. So we need to plot our communication points. And this is where you can use command, right? You need to have a system in place of how you're going to be communicating, because the goal is that you tell them what is happening and the next steps before they can call you with the question. So if my clients are calling me with questions, then I haven't done my job. I haven't done a stellar job in communicating if they have to ask me when something's going to happen. So you have to figure out, who do you need to communicate with? And the answer is everyone, right? We need to communicate with everyone. We need to communicate with the co-broke. We need to communicate with our buyer or seller. We need to communicate with the lender, regardless of who we're working with. There may be and title or attorneys. We need to make sure that everybody's being communicated with. Does everybody have addendums that need to have addendums? Are we getting to doing closing paperwork and the lender doesn't realize that we've negotiated a seller concession? Oops, that's not good. And it can be you. Even if you think it should be the buyer's agent and you're the listing agent, it's okay for it to be you too, to do that over communicating. So your checklist should have a schedule of when you need to talk to each party, because you think that you're going to remember and you don't. And then you're like, oh crap, 2 days went by and I didn't tell them about that appointment or about that addendum or whatever. It helps to keep our relationship solid, to be able to have those communication plots. The relationship is for this transaction, and it's for our future transaction. So by being over communicators and having those communication plots logged and in a system, it helps us with our future business, which we're going to talk a lot about in a couple of slides from here. If your co-broke is difficult, please, I urge you not to step up to the challenge of being difficult with them. Okay, we will work with very difficult agents in our market. It just is going to happen that but we are never that person. So know how to communicate with people. If someone is, if we're working with a difficult agent, do not write anything that you'll regret somebody else seeing someday. Don't call and yell at them. We give grace, right? Sometimes somebody could be having a bad day. Maybe they are just a difficult agent. But if we are more professional than them, we're giving our client, is it going to serve my client for me to be difficult back to the co-broke or back to a lender that doesn't want to communicate with me? No, the answer is no. So we only do what serves our client. Okay. It doesn't matter whether we're right or wrong. It matters what serves our client.
It all goes back to that win-win or no deal.
Win-win.
And no one wants to do bully brokering.
No. And it doesn't, being win-win doesn't mean that you cave. Being a really good communicator and being positive and professional with your co-brokes doesn't mean you cave. It actually increases the likelihood of you being able to serve your client better. It makes you a better negotiator. The first person that yells loses. Okay. Sometimes letting the silence do the heavy lifting will yield you a better result. Okay. And let's talk about communication. So we can have verbal communication, we can have emails, and we can have texts. So I don't assume that people have listened to voicemails, especially, as busy as everybody is. So if I'm leaving a voicemail, I am always following that up with a text or an email so that they know that it's there. And sometimes I might have a verbal conversation, but I might need to back up our conversation in an email, whether it's with my client or a co-broke. Sending you this email, following up from our conversation, please confirm that this is what we have collectively decided to do moving forward, and have them confirm that. And then log that in your command or your dot loop or wherever it is you're logging your documents, because when it's a problem and somebody is going to say, when your broker calls and says, I'm looking at the file, you better have everything in there. Okay. So that's why we log our important communications in writing. But don't write things that your broker's going to call you on and say, you really chose to put that in writing? Hello. Don't do that either. And I really feel it's important when you are doing an email communication, don't put the whole content of the email in the subject line. Be professional. Send email written communications that are professional. Have a subject line. Have a greeting. Hello, Tim. I hope that you're doing well. Reaching out to you to confirm this. Have a great day. Be professional at every level of communication that you're doing. And sometimes a text is fine. But if it's a lot of communication, then text isn't fine. And then make sure that the communication was received. Okay, so if we whip off a text and we don't get any confirmation back that they've gotten it, don't assume that they got it, because what if something happened? I mean, my Verizon has been terrible lately. Something like that could happen. Okay. So communication is super important. Show people appreciation, show them grace, and always be the most professional person in the room. Plot documents on your timeline. So important. We're in charge of the paperwork. So if we have things that have to be signed and signed off on and contingencies released, that's our job. if I'm sending over documents for signatures, I'm asking for confirmation that the other side received it and when they're going to be getting it back to me. It's July. People are on vacation. Do I know in my transaction that I'm going to be able to get a hold of the co-broke? Am I letting them know when I'm going on vacation if I'm in a transaction? And if it's going to be difficult to reach me for 2 days, I shouldn't be keeping that to myself. Okay? If somebody's going to need to get a hold of me and I'm going to be unavailable, I need to let them know that. Okay. When sending docs to anyone, I do follow that up with a text or a call. That's an okay text, you know? Hey, Karen, I just sent over the addendum for signature. Please let me know you got it. And stuff like that. So contracts, addendums, lender docs, they should be timely and they should be well written. So please reread them before you send them. Sometimes, I'm a dot looper, so sometimes it will pre-fill in some information that might be left over from a previous offer that I made. Read through them again. Make sure that the correct addresses are on stuff. Make sure we're spelling people's names correctly, things like that. And when you're doing your checklist for sending out documents or plotting your communication, Command has checklists in there. So for your documents, when you're under contract and you're creating an opportunity, it has a checklist right there for you. It tells you what's required. You don't even have to guess. It will tell you what you need to do. So utilize those checklists and, make sure that we're doing everything compliant for your state's regulations. Do I have initials on everything? Do I have signatures where I need signatures? And if the other side doesn't have them, again, give them grace. It's okay to send a document back to the co-broke saying, you know what, it looks like your folks missed an initial at the bottom of page 4 or whatever. But somebody needs to be looking through them to make sure that everything is compliant because that's how we get paid. And at the closing table, we don't want to be chasing signatures. That's not the time. So we need to plot our documents on our timeline and we need to be reviewing them. Okay. And we're going to go into best practices for managing the deal. And sometimes we're learning best practices as we gain experience. So we might have an experience that goes sideways and now we know to do things differently the next time we're in that scenario. It could be a contingency that you start using. Hey, I never thought that we would start seeing things written in on appraisal gaps, people willing to pay a certain number of dollars over an appraisal. I never thought I'd see that written into a contract, but it happens because our market changes and we need to be able to change with that. If anyone has any questions on stuff as I'm going through, just let me know. But best practices for managing a deal are a lot of the things that we've already talked about. Over communicating, documenting everything, being professional. Know your contracts. Know them when you're writing them. But man, when you're under contract, you best know the dates and know what you're getting your clients into and make sure that the dates aren't missed. Because saying I'm sorry is not a good script for totally screwing up a deal because you missed your contract date deadlines. Know them. That's like maybe I should apply for another job if you're missing contract dates. You got to know them. So you have tools in Command. I also keep a pending. So we are specifically talking about contract to close. I keep a pending spreadsheet because I'm a spreadsheet person. So I know, has the final water been done? Are we past inspection contingency? Are we past this contingency? Are we clear to close? Has a closing been scheduled? Does everybody know when the closing is going to be? Do we have a place for it yet? Have we scheduled the final walkthrough? You know what? Prepare that you're going to have a final walkthrough if you have the seller, because there's plenty of buyer agents that call me at the very last minute saying, oh yeah, we need to do a walkthrough. Yes, you too. So if they haven't reached out to you, just call them. Are you doing a final walkthrough? Because it really jams me up for them to schedule it last minute. So just call them and ask them, are you doing one? It's not on my calendar and I need to be there. Okay. Those are best practices. Being like a great co-broke is a best practice.
I like the spreadsheet idea. I also have done a whiteboard where I have my pipeline, buyers, sellers, and then pending, and then just lay it right out there. And using the calendar. I mean, I have to remind myself to check my calendar every night and every morning. And if you have those dates on your calendar, it's just a really good practice.
Absolutely.
I haven't seen, this is stepping back a little bit, I haven't seen an addendum for appraisal gaps. Is there one hiding?
Oh, I knew as soon as I said that it was going to come up, and I wasn't sure if I should say it or not. I don't see addendums for appraisal gaps either. I am seeing them written into contracts where, so if I have a seller and I get multiple offers, and some of the offers are well over listing price and what a closed comp is going to be. It doesn't do my seller any good for me to let them just accept that offer if I don't know how that buyer is going to pay for that difference between what the appraisal comes back and what their offer price is. Are they throwing that number out there just to get the contract? And then when the appraisal comes in low, they're going to want to reduce the price? Or do they have an intent to say, I know I'm offering $30,000 over and I have $30,000 in cash, so should the appraisal come in at this number? So I'm not going to give you guys the verbiage for that because there's a lot of verbiage around that, and you should be going to your leadership for any contingencies that you write in contracts. But I am writing them and I am accepting them. But again, when we're talking about money, we're super clear. So if somebody is offering to purchase a home and you've run the closed comps and they're offering way over, you need to have a very clear and direct conversation on where is that money coming from? Or do they not have it and they're only intending to really pay what the appraisal comes in? Because now their offer isn't as strong as some of the other offers I might have to review with my seller, right? But yeah, there are people that are very willing right now and are paying at, a specified number of dollars over an appraised value. That's on top of whatever deposits they have to put down for their loan. Okay, so there's probably other state requirements around that. So I'm not going to go deeper than that into that. But if you're in that scenario, then go to your coaches or mentors or your leadership in your office and have conversations on how to write that out. Okay.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Is that written into the pre-approval, like when your buyers go to the bank, get the pre-approval letter? Do they add to that they have a bank account that's got $50,000 in it?
I have actually started seeing pre-approvals with appraisal gaps written into the pre-approval.
Oh, okay.
And it's not, and then, it's like, it depends. So, but I have recently been seeing some pre-approvals come in where the lender is writing in there that the buyer has the ability to cover X number of dollars in an appraisal gap. So come from curiosity. If you're seeing that, and if you have the buyer, then you should have lots of conversations around that prior to writing an offer, and you should be in communication with the lender. If you're the seller, the listing agent, then call that lender and get clarity around what they're saying so that you can deliver clarity back to your seller. But I can't even believe I'm saying it, but yeah, I have started seeing that.
And so you've got a whole bunch of offers, and some of them have the pre-approval with the gap in it. And what do you do with the other offers that don't have that? Like they're offering, they have an offer, it's 50,000, but do you have to stop your process and call them up on the phone and say, where are you getting this 50,000? Because I'm trying to make a decision here as to who I'm gonna, you know.
For every offer you receive, you should have 100% clarity on the money. So if it's over listing price and over what you know the comps are, you need to be calling and saying, where's the money coming from? What's your intent? So whatever offer you are moving forward with, you make sure you put in writing what you need to put in writing. And some
Okay.
people will have it and some people won't. And not every offer gets accepted based on price. So we've already done making and receiving offers. So I don't want to go backwards too far on that. But remember that not everything is based on price. But let's be honest, a lot of it is. So if it's about the money, have clarity around about the money for your seller.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome. And you know, we have best practices for everything, communication, how to keep our documents, but best practices and risk avoidance. Where is the deal at risk of falling apart? You know, inspections. So the more a seller can disclose about a property, the more risk we avoid for them. That is one of the best ways to avoid risk. And one of the biggest ways a deal can fall apart by issues with the home not being disclosed and then finding out and having a contingency in a contract that they can get out of. I put that one at the top of my list of where can a deal fall apart: inspections. Okay. Where else? Appraisals right now, right? If we're like the conversation that Rita, we were just having on, you know, offers coming in way over and then it doesn't get appraised, we're risking a deal falling apart if we haven't gotten clarity about that gap. So you have to have clear conversations with your seller there, right? Like, hey, your property is listed at 400. You have an offer for 475. We know, Rita, that that's not going to comp out at 475. If it comps out and this buyer doesn't have anything else, and this is the deal that maybe it's your only offer. The good news in that scenario is that if the appraisal comes in at 400 or 425 or 450, the good news there is that you're getting every penny that the market will bear for your home. The likelihood of it coming in at the 475 though is very small. So we're setting clear expectations, right? So for a seller, we have to price the home correctly. For the buyer, we have to know where the money's going to come from if it doesn't appraise. Another place where the deal is at risk of falling apart is lending. Have we dug deep into the financing of our buyer? Have we vetted out that buyer for our seller? Are we calling them every week? You know, what are some conditions of that person's loan that I need to be aware of? Is there child support that I don't know about? Am I working with a buyer that is really tight on money? Am I reminding them that we keep our credit quiet? Am I reminding them not to buy the new car? It's always the car. Okay? People go out and buy cars while they're buying homes. Are we reminding them not to quit their job? Yep, that's happened. We don't quit jobs during a transaction. Okay? We don't start buying furniture before we close and you know, go to Jordan's Furniture and open up a $20,000 line of credit and outfit the home before we've closed. And now
Felt like a good idea at the time, Susan.
right.
And I wanted an F-350 to drive away from my job, you know?
Yeah.
Days of glory. Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
It's always the car.
Glad you bought the truck. You're gonna live in it now, stupid. Don't say stupid. That's an internal monologue. But anyway, yeah, they've got to proceed with caution in that window when they're that final scrape of the credit.
Yep. You know, and they will check your job right before closing. I had a buyer that found out they lost their job when they did the verification of employment. So it really wasn't my buyer's fault. She lost her job, was on vacation, and they didn't want to interrupt her vacation. So when the lender went to go do her final employment verification. They're like, yeah, she doesn't know it yet, but we had to let her go because we're downsizing.
We fixed the glitch. Yeah.
Hey, vey, no one plans for that stuff. But yeah, we need to be coaching our buyers, especially when they're tight on money, not to be doing things like, buying stuff, opening lines of credit. Don't pay anything off. Work with your lender. How's their credit? Are we tight? Do we need to be tag teaming, keeping these kids in line? So not to be age biased, but sometimes some of my very young clients, I have to do that. They're used to opening up credit when they need it. I have to remind them not to. Where else is a deal likely to fall apart? Those are the biggest ones. And we've talked a lot about staying in relationship. That is what will keep us. That's your best practice to keep a deal alive, is staying in relationship and over communicating, verifying everything. Okay. What tasks have deadlines, and what are those deadlines? We need to know what those are. And how can you help manage other parties involved in the deal? By getting right up in their grill, man. You got to get up in their business. You got to know what their next steps are and nicely remind them to do it.
Well, Susan, as you had just said before too, and I think because you and I speak the same language, when I heard you say kids, I didn't take that as a pejorative term. I think in the mind of a buyer, and Gary would say this, like Gary's like, go to Bold 52 times. Like Gary wants you to read the Red Book 12 times. Like every year, every time you go through that material or that transaction, it's like a grade, right? So if you've got your second time home buyer, first time home seller that you're working with, they're in like the second grade. They don't do this all the time. So the general terminology of the kids, when you hear us say that, yeah, we certainly don't mean that as an offense to anybody, because there's people that are, in their early 20s, and they've done more transactions than some of our buyers who they might be moving out of their forever home to right size to their next home. And just because they have an errant eyebrow hair like my dad used to, or like just more gray more snow on the roof, doesn't mean that they know more than your young couple buyers.
Yeah.
So we have to just approach all of them with curiosity. So that's why we always do the terminology of the kids.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And it's okay that they don't know everything. That's what they need us for. That actually helps give us value. We get paid a lot of money to do what we do, guys. So we need to be really good at it, and we need to be over communicating those kind of things.
You guys are great. Oh, sorry.
No, go ahead.
I was going to say, I can tell you guys are great at caring for your clients and getting to know their personality and their style. I mean, I have a client now who's under 30, and he's amassed so much wealth. He's ready to go out into investment properties. And then I have older people who've never bought a house before. It's all about coming from caring and high level of professional behavior.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And I think I've probably made it very clear how passionate I am about your co-broke relationships. They will make you or break you. And hey, some of your co-broke relationships are going to be with new people. Give them grace. You are the new people. Ask for grace. It's okay to not know everything, but we have to, ask for help when we need it. And you're in a newer person situation. And in my situation, I need to be giving grace to people that are just starting out, because we all have to start somewhere. But why is your relationship with your co-broke important? It's because you're going to give a better experience to your client by having a good co-broke experience, a good co-broke relationship. Your emotion when you're communicating will pass on to your co-broke. So make sure, and they'll pass that on to their client. So make sure you're giving them what you want them to be sending off to their folks. And we've talked a lot about a win-win. We coach them without them knowing we're coaching them. And that benefits our client. Our reputation lives on past this transaction. And we need a good reputation in the marketplace, because boy, bad word of mouth spreads like wildfire. And I love that script. Your client has their perspective and they're right. My client has this perspective and they're right. Let's come up with a solution that both parties can work with. Okay. It usually doesn't work when I only want my side to win. You know, tone. Tone says so much. Don't yell. I've had to ask people to not yell at me anymore. I've had to tell a co-broke, I really want to have this conversation, but if you keep yelling at me, I'm going to have to hang up until you can't yell at until you're not yelling at me. It's not okay to yell at people. Maybe they're having a bad day and they're yelling at me. Just ask if we could just have this conversation in an hour. And that's okay if you have to do that, because we're trained on not being emotional and keeping our emotion in check, but not every agent out there is being trained on that. So let's help them. Let people vent, and sometimes they just need to vent, right? That might be their personality. So we let them vent, and then we bring them back to working on a solution. When I'm working with an agent that might be in that nature of just like, "Ugh," or maybe they're just driving me nuts and I can't pass that on to them, I also don't stay in a place of complaining about that. We call it a 60-second funeral in my office. We don't complain about things because what you focus on expands. So if I'm going to focus on complaining about an agent, I'm never going to be able to see their name come across my screen without getting upset. So I'll have a 60-second funeral and be upset over this one thing, and then I move on. I mentally move on. Your co-broke relationship is important. Okay. This is a very powerful conversation. Get repeat business and referrals. Okay. Wow your clients. Be the dessert. How are we doing that? Facebook friends. After I close a transaction, if it's gone well, I do make sure that I'm Facebook friends with them. If you're not on Facebook, get on it. If you don't like being on Facebook, get over it. You got to be on it. I get more business from that stuff. It seems silly, but I do, right? Be positive. Only positive on Facebook or any social media platform. No complaining, and never bash another person, especially not another agent, on social media. And if you're going to use social media, consistency, not only reposts, be authentic on what you're posting. Remind people, it's an opportunity for you to remind people that you're in the business without throwing up real estate on them, right? You can do it in humorous ways. You can do it in ways where you're adding value. Like, October is change your batteries in your smoke detector month. That's a value add. Put that out. You have a funny showing where maybe there's just something really funny at a property, a frog in the house or a unique tree or something unique. Post a picture of that with a fun comment. Remind people, and then post other things that are not real estate related. Facebook and social media is an opportunity for us to be trickling into people and reminding them that we're in real estate softly. Okay. Handwritten notes, people love them. Vendor lists, people love them. Now, gifts. So we have the KW app. I'll back up a little bit. Use the KW app. You have the app on your phone. If you don't know how to use it, you have tech directors in your market centers that can help you with that. Create vendor and utility lists. I have spreadsheets of vendors. So when I'm on Facebook and someone's like, oh my God, I need a roof repair guy. Guess what? I want to be the first person on there saying, here, call my guy. Let them know I sent you. I'm looking for a cleaner. I have someone. Let them know I sent you. I'm looking to have my gutters cleaned out. I need a handyman. I need an electrician. I'm driving by someone's house that I know and I notice that they're not getting to mowing their lawn and it always looks meticulous. I'm reaching out to them. Hey, how are you feeling? Are you having a hard time getting out? I've got a great landscaper who's very reasonably priced. Be the source of the source. Add value. That gives people a reason to reach back out to you. And then please, people, we are in the gift giving business. Plan a closing gift. Okay. This is where other industries, where a unique industry, where the person doing the work gives the gift. Okay, we don't go get a gift from our doctors. We don't get a gift from our chiropractors. The gym doesn't give us a gift when we pay them $100 every month. But we buy gifts. Gifts work. I get a lot of referral business. I gift everybody. I have a stack this big of gift cards in my desk. So that if someone refers me to a friend or a family member and they golf, I can pull out a Titleist gift card, pop that in the mail and a handwritten note. If they're a food connoisseur,
My ears were burning. What happened?
I know. I said title. I'm like, Tim's gonna come back on.
What? I'm taking copious notes and sweating at the brow. I'm like, hold it. She just said Titleist Pro ones or did doesn't they all end up in the woods? They all go to their eventual home.
Right?
Yeah.
Gifts work. You know, when someone sends me a referral, I send a handwritten note and a gift card. I send them a $25 gift card just for sending the referral, even if I don't get the business, even if it's a shitty referral. I mean, crappy. I mean, not so great. It's that they thought of you, because the next one could be really good. And you're now training someone to think of you when they hear someone mention that they have a real estate need. You know how grateful I am for that? Grateful enough that I'm going to send them a $25 gift card. Thank you, a latte. Have a coffee on me. When that closes, I'm going to send them a $100 gift card because I'm so grateful for that. That's way less money than a Zillow lead, people. Right?
Yeah.
People like gifts. Go ahead, Nina.
Would you give $1 million client?
Actually, that was my question. Sorry, I couldn't get you off of, I couldn't get myself off of mute.
You know what? They want to be heard. They just want to be cared for. So my favorite $1 million client, I've done 3 transactions with her. She drinks gin. She likes gourmet chocolates. Her birthday is February 28th, and she gets gourmet chocolates. I hand delivered to her every year. She doesn't want an expensive anything. You know what she wants? She wants me to text her. I text her. I stay in relationship with her. You know what $1 million client wants? Yeah, we do buy her expensive gin.
Yeah.
But you know what? They want to be heard. They want to be cared for. She wants good service. That's what your $1 million client wants. When you show up with, you know, a candle, it's just, people don't care about the size of the gift all of the time. It's that you had the thought. You know what a handwritten note would probably do to your $1 million client? I bet they don't get a lot of them. They want to know you care. That's what people want. So when your $1 million client has something, maybe something bad happens in their life, maybe a loved one passes away, and you go over with a sympathy card and a box of tissues and ask how they're doing, they will be your client for life. My $1 million client didn't set up a Christmas tree, so I went and bought like a mini Christmas tree. I'm like, you have to have a Christmas tree. Because I know that she's Christian and that resonates with her. Because I went to go list her house and she had like some religious paraphernalia up, and one was a crucifix, and one, I know Tim will appreciate this being the Irish Catholic that he is, and a picture of the Last Supper up. And I'm like, yeah, those have to come down. She's like, Susan, you're an atheist. I said, no, but not everybody likes that stuff. You know, she never took the crucifix down. She did take the picture of the Last Supper down, but she refused to take that crucifix down. Clowns and religious stuff, they just need to come down. But yeah, so for your $1 million client, Nina, I would say get real with them. Find out what they like, and that's what you give them.
It's better to give someone a $10 gift of something that they mentioned or you know that they like, rather than a $100 gift that has no relation, you know?
Yeah.
I get someone $100 worth of cigars and they don't smoke cigars, who cares?
Absolutely.
You get them a gift
I just found I
to their
just found
favorite
this.
ice cream shop or something.
Sorry, I just found this great Woodstock Chimes site where you can customize it. So Home Sweet Home, Kathy and Chris, July 2021. And they'll mail that right out for you.
That's great. Yeah, get personal with people. They love that stuff. And you know what? I love it. I love gifting people. I get so much, I think I get more pleasure out of it really than they do. So do what resonates with you. You know what? Take them out for a drink. Get in relationship.
I feel like you're talking right at me.
Okay, I need some recommendations because these folks are a little bit unusual. And I sold their house, and then so I was both their buyer agent and their seller agent. So I don't know how much to give. I am hosting a meet and greet for them in the neighborhood. But I do feel like I need to give them a gift, even though the meet and greet is going to be costly. But I'm splitting it with the lender, I hope. So what is an appropriate size? So I was going to just get them a Home Depot gift card. I mean, is that too impersonal? Or,
Yeah.
I mean, I don't know.
Yeah. Yeah, that's too impersonal. And, you know, your meet and greet could be perfect. It could be a meet and greet with, I don't know, something for their home. I mean, a meet and greet is great because you're giving of your time. You know,
Yeah.
I love, you know, and when I don't know what to do, I do like my gourmet chocolates. Like there are some gourmet things that you can go out and get. And sometimes I'm gifting people not even at the closing. Like I've brought gifts to listing appointments, you know. I was going to a listing appointment and I found these little beautifully boxed pedophores. I mean, it was small. It wasn't expensive. It's the fact that I brought it that they liked. I was like, well, it's Sunday after a holiday. I thought you might want a treat. So I just left it at the end of my listing appointment. I think when
Susan, somebody left a note of Giftology, a great book. It was Patrick. It's in the chat box.
Awesome. There you go. Thank you for putting that in there. And gift giving can be very impactful, but I would say have fun with it. And gift giving is an opportunity for you to get into relationship.
Yeah, well, and to Susan's point too, don't lose your mind worrying about the perfect gift or this huge gift if you're never going to talk to them again.
Yeah.
And I don't mean that you're not allowed to do that. I would rather get something that is you know, small in stature, small in price, and thoughtful, and then continue to hear from you again and again and again. Now, the other side of that coin, somebody asked about, like, what do you do for your $1 million buyers? There's creative things to do. Don't forget, like from a legal standpoint, where all your states probably have limitations on what you can do or what you can claim as a closing gift. Don't forget, if you've built a relationship with this person, there is also the housewarming gift after the fact. We've had a lot of our teams that have done stuff like, would you be willing to give us 25 names that we can invite to your house? Because this is how the fox gets in the hen house, right? I want to meet your friends. So if they buy over the winter, it's a beautiful house. It's north of $1 million. And there's not an established grill out back. And you know that Ted and Stacy would love a grill. Then we are going to grab our lender, Brad, who loves to run a grill. He's probably going to help us sponsor this event for them and their 25 friends. We're creating an experience. And when we leave, we just happen to forget the grill, right? There's creative ways to do it. And at that point, it's a housewarming gift. And you don't have to spend that much money either, to Susan's point. I'd rather have you stay in touch with your clients forever after giving them a nice gift, a thoughtful gift, something. I'm big on non-consumables, right? And so Pro V1s for me also fall in that category because they're going to be gone before the third hole on Saturday morning, right? So, you know, things that I can always look at and remember the experience, you know? So if you are doing the housewarming party, and a great move for your content as well is if there's a Kenyan team step and repeat over in the corner of the yard, people are a couple of cocktainis deep. They're like, we want to go over and say hi. And they just get in front of the step and the repeat. And they're like, we're here with the Kenyan team and they help Ted and Stacy move. Like, you're not going to use all the content, but you're going to get a lot of added content with people that are in love with you for 2 hours because you threw this great party for Ted and Stacy.
Yep.
So
That's a
just
great idea. I love that.
step and repeat at the party, and people can go up and either take fun pictures or you can roll video. And yes, you bring your team photographer to do that for you. That
What a
seems like
fun-
a lot of work. It is a lot of work. The first time you do any of these events, it's going to be a lot of work. After that, it's part of your process.
Yeah. And then
Sounds
go
like a fun
Facebook friend
thing.
them.
You must know something about them or something about why they bought the yard or the property and tap into that. If they like the backyard because they want to play lawn games or something, you get them a bocce set or cornhole and put a stencil on it, something like that. It doesn't have to be big as long as it's better to be more personal than big is my opinion.
Impactful for sure. Yep.
Yeah.
For sure.
Yeah. And then find ways to continue to stay in relationship with them. People really do like to be remembered. They love birthday cards. I do birthday cards with scratch tickets in it for every client that I've ever had. I send birthday texts to them. I send house anniversary cards, the anniversary of when people buy homes. You can get an orphan client, when they bought the house. If you had the seller, send them a house anniversary card until they're ready to sell. There's lots of things that you can do, but people, I don't let any piece of mail go out of my office unless it's handwritten. It's just my Christmas cards. I have over 500 people that I send Christmas cards to, and yes, they're all handwritten. Even the return label. My husband thinks I'm a freak. I am a little bit about that. But for me, people like getting all handwritten. So I start early.
Question about the return label. Do you put your address on it, or do you put the office address?
I have my own office, so I put my office. I don't put my MCA, my market center office on it.
So what would you recommend?
I would recommend, I don't know if there's a wrong or right answer for that, but if it's a business thing, I would probably put the MCA the market center office on there, because it is a piece of business mail. I don't think that you're going to get into trouble by putting your personal. Do you work out of a home office and you're always home? Then you might,
Right.
if they return something to you, you probably want your home email. Your
Right.
home address on there.
Yeah. Okay.
But yeah, when I'm sending stuff out for business related stuff, I put my office address on there. But
Right, but I'm
like
just saying,
handwriting
like
it.
cards, like I'm saying, like if I'm writing a note to, say it's an expired listing or something like that.
Yeah,
and
I
work out of
wouldn't
my
overthink
home.
it. I wouldn't overthink that. I would just get it out. Make sure that all of your compliance stuff, like if you have your business card in there, that your business cards are compliant. And I know that you have a compliant director or somebody in your
Yep.
market center that will do that. So make sure that any advertising and marketing that you're doing has compliance all around that. But I wouldn't overthink sending out something to a client or a card or a handwritten note, which address to put on there.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, you're welcome. You're
I
welcome.
just have like a small question about handwritten cards. So you just closed with somebody and it was a pleasant experience and you want to send them a card. Do you send them a thank you card that's already made up with a Keller Williams thing on the front and your name? Or do you send a personal, like something with a lighthouse on it from the Cape, like blank card and you write it in?
Again, I wouldn't overthink it. You're sending a handwritten note, just send something. And it depends on what your marketing style is. Some people that are very into branding will only send things out. If lighthouses is their thing, everything they send out will have a lighthouse. Some people will only send out a KW card. I don't overthink it that much. I always send a card.
Oh, it doesn't matter, just a card.
For me, that's, people do their own personal things. I send out personal cards. Now that being said, I might be sending out, if I'm having a hard time really connecting with someone, or if it's an orphan client, I put my business card in there, and I don't think there's anything wrong with that. If it's like a home anniversary for a house that I sold, I know what the buyer's names were, and obviously I know their new address. So I'm going to send a home anniversary card with my business card in it, so that they know how to find me when they're ready to sell. Because you know what? Most agents don't keep in touch with their clients. So I'm just giving them someone to keep in touch with.
Oh, great.
Okay. But I think the main focus here on get repeat business and referrals is consistency. Small thing. If you're going to do it, have a system around it, have a checklist for it, do it consistently. Sending out a thank you card and never following up in any other way is just a waste of, I don't know, I don't even know what a stamp is right now, 52 cents, whatever it is. But it can be an impactful part of your lead generation. Okay, so plan a closing gift and possibly any other gifts that you might want to. And we're going to, I'm going to pass command transaction management, except I'm not going to completely pass it by. You have to run an opportunity in order to get paid. And you have tech directors and training at your market center. Use it, get to know how to use it. Being compliant is super important, and don't wait till the end of your transaction to put your opportunity in and then expect your office to, you know, jump hurdles and get you paid on time. We really have a responsibility to be in relationship with everybody in the transaction, and that includes our Keller Williams people. We have support staff that is like amazing in our market centers. And that means we have people that are looking at our opportunities for compliance and our document checklist, right? In our opportunities. Let's stay in relationship with them too. Let's stay in relationship with them by making their job as easy to do as possible. So create your opportunity. Put your listing agreement paperwork in there. Put your buyer agency paperwork in there. Set it to submit to be reviewed. Check it before you submit it. Check it a couple times. Make sure it's compliant. Make sure you haven't missed anything. When you're under contract, put your under contract documents in there and set it to submit so that you give them the opportunity to triage their plate of work. So stay in relationship with your market center. We need them. They make our lives easier. Honey, they pay us. They make sure we get paid. So we need to stay in relationship with our market center people too.
So Janet's role, obviously at her market center, you can see on her name is MCA. So market center administrator. And I'm going to guess, Janet, that there's a piece of you from your DISC assessment that you run strong on the operational side. Yes.
I'm not the MCA. I'm the ambassador, the tech ambassador.
Oh, the
but
tech
I am
ambassador.
strong on the admin side.
Oh, okay. Okay. I apologize. Okay. I just saw the MCA. I wasn't sure. Okay. So, so in the grand scheme of things, when you're talking to your people in the MCA department, most of them, if you understand your DISC, run MC. And to Susan's point, the benefit of the market center having that forecast of you guys getting your opportunity started as soon as possible, it lets the MCA department and everybody who's going to touch that paperwork, the digital paperwork, the physical paperwork, everyone who has to manhandle that and get it to the finish line, they have an idea what's going on. I don't care who you are and how you're wired. If somebody dropped a pile of work on your desk at 4:45 on Friday, you'd probably punch them in the neck. I mean, I would personally, right? So I would like to know what's coming to a theater near me. And our MCAs, I'm gonna speak for our two MCAs here in Portsmouth. They don't like surprises. If they can forecast a day, if we can understand what we have coming, we can forecast as a market center what to expect for throughput, for actual physical work, and above and beyond that, financially, what our month looks like. And for you guys, to Susan's point too, to drop everything into compliance, hoping that they approve everything in 3 minutes and you get paid in 7 minutes, is a country we don't live in. It takes a little more time than that. We're pretty proud of our time frame here. If you've dotted your I's and crossed your T's and you get stuff to the MCA, we have about a 24 to 48 hour window that you're getting paid. Because again, we're a 753 person market center. So
they're rock stars.
A lot of volume, but just do your staff at your respective market center a favor and learn the language of getting your opportunity started sooner than later. It'll make your life easier, never mind the market centers.
And, you know, sometimes they're going to need to kick something back if you haven't gotten all your signatures or there's something that you're missing. And the week of closing is so busy, whether you represent the buyer or the seller. And if it's something that the other side, we need to maybe get the co-broke's clients' initials or signatures on, they're really busy. So when we're sending stuff in and submitting stuff for review at the last minute, that makes the contract to close timeline period not dessert, it's the fly. It's the fly when you wait till the last minute. Don't do that. It makes it, they don't have time. So they might have packed up their computer. If I'm working with some folks that aren't, don't do everything on their phone, sellers may have packed up their computer and I need them to do electronic signing the day before closing. I'm the a-hole in the room when I make that when I do that. Don't be that person.
She means the whole agent.
That's what I mean. Yeah.
Yeah,
Oh gosh, I
I'm the
know.
whole agent.
I'm the
Oh,
whole
are
agent.
you kidding me? I think we probably whacked the puck around the boards a couple times this month. It's okay.
Okay.
All adults in the room.
Okay. So yeah, I can't, get your stuff in for your market center admins and also to make it a great experience for the buyers and sellers and that whole future business by making it a good experience. Part of that is getting your stuff submitted in Command so that if you are missing any documentation, we can get that taken care of before the week of closing. Okay. There's also consumer guide settings in Command, and I'm going to bypass this because we have 3 minutes left and I do have a great respect for your time. So I'm going to start closing with, does anybody have any ahas or things that may have resonated with them today?
Nina's got a hand up by the way.
Oh.
too.
Go ahead, Nina. Maybe that was from before.
Yep.
Anybody?
Sorry, that was from before, and I'm on my phone, so I'm having a hard
Don't
time.
worry. Just leave it there.
unmuting,
That's
so-
fine.
That's
Don't
okay.
worry.
Okay, thanks.
Just the best practices for managing the deal, knowing your contracts and your dates and all the risk avoidance things. That really stood out for me today.
Awesome. Thank you for sharing.
I have to agree. The best practices were really helpful and mainly being a problem solver during your interaction and in the process. So that was super helpful. Thank you.
You're very welcome. Thank you, Sheena.
For me, it's being proactive. Keep calm and carry on.
Oh, I love that. Yes. Absolutely. Absolutely. And a lot of this stuff is you just have to start a little bit every day in learning this stuff. And the way, when we change the way that we look at things, the things that we look at changed, a problem can be an opportunity for us to blossom and to provide value to people that will in turn get us more business. Because at the end of the day, this is a sales job and we need to be selling all of the time. And our clients deserve to have the best experience. And it's so much fun when you're at a closing table and people are appreciating how much work you've done and they're happy. So we're going to keep reminding you. I know that this is the last class. Is there something else tomorrow, Tim?
No, this is it. We'll be back. I trust this is not confirmed yet, but our expectation is that we're going to run Ignite again in September and then again in November. And I'm not sure what 2022 looks like yet, but as a region, we'll be doing every other month for the rest of the year, like we planned.
Okay.
So, and plan on. I can tell you. It'll start on the first day. We won't wait for a clean Monday. It's going to be September 1st is Tuesday. It's going to be that day. Obviously, and we'll be respectful of the Labor Day weekend and stuff like that. But it's 18 sessions, so we can usually navigate all the holiday events.
Awesome.
Where do we find the recorded sessions? Because there are a couple that I missed and a couple I'd like to go back and review.
Yep, it's if you go into YouTube and look up Keller Williams doing KWNE region, you should find the page. And there's a lot of content in there from some other teachings as well, but you should find all the Ignites and they're labeled and they might be a day back. Like obviously today's is not going to be uploaded today. I wouldn't claim it's going to get uploaded today, but it'll be up within the next day or so. But you should be able to find all the older sessions and even older sessions if you choose to do that. Because the content hasn't changed drastically in the last 12 months, just the classroom and the conversation, obviously.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
Yeah.
Got it.
And guys, keep up with your 10 contacts added a day, your 10 conversations a day, your 10 handwritten notes, and your 10 home previews per week. Remember that, the whole growing side of your business, that's what successful agents do every single day. And dealing with business never takes the place of finding business. So finding business should be the beginning of our day. Every day we need to be lead generating, so that we can have pipelines that have consistency built around them. And every no gets you closer to a yes. So keep putting yourselves out there. I know you guys can all do it. If you have any questions or if you need anything, please don't hesitate to reach out. I'm very easy to find on Facebook, and I'm going to put my email in the chat right now. If you need anything, I'm always happy to help. Okay.
Yeah, I'm throwing my stuff in there too. It's T Lindsay, TLINDSEY at KW.com. And my cell is 603-834-2856. We're both up here in Portsmouth. Susan, obviously part of a team that serves New Hampshire and Maine. We've got agents for your referrals in New Hampshire, Maine, and Massachusetts. So if you're on the South Shore, out west in Mass, or in Connecticut or Rhode Island, and you want some help on the North Shore, Massachusetts, we've got some great agents up here that hop the border all the time. And if I can do anything to help you guys out, again, I'm going to put my email and my cell phone in that chat as well.
Yeah. And if you guys have script partners, keep up with them. If you don't, please practice your scripts. You should not be practicing on your customers. That's why we practice on each other. And sometimes it's just learning those little one-liners that can really help. So we're not going to do any actual scripting right now, but I encourage you to use the resources within your market center to be practicing with each other so that we're not practicing on our clients. When we are calling, we're being very mindful of the do not call list.
Yes.
The script for that is, if you call someone on it, is I'm sorry, have a great day, I will take you off my list.
Just scream and hang up. It's fine.
The more you script, the more confident you
Yeah,
guys are going to be.
yes. I apologize for disturbing you. I'll add you to my notes. Have a great day. Goodbye, Mr. Lindsay. Click.
Yep.
Bye. We're not
Yep.
trying to tell them, no, you're not really on the do not. I think you're mistaken, Mr. Lindsay.
And I'm going to end there. I know you guys have seen the Create Your Success list before, so I'll let you use that the way that you have been instructed to before. Have an awesome day, and I'll hang around for a couple minutes if anyone has any questions. But thank you so much for your participation today. I truly am grateful for that.
Yeah, and we'd ask for sure if you enjoyed today's class, please let your leadership in your market center know that it was Susan Kenyon from Nathan Dickey's Market Center here in Portsmouth. Of course, Nate's our regional director and also our OP at 463. If you don't know, if you haven't met, or maybe your market center doesn't have one, but I need you to go find out. Hopefully you're in relationship with your local productivity coach. Hopefully you're in relationship with your market center tech trainer. If your market centers do not have people in those roles, encourage your leadership to fill those roles, and just make sure what we know, feel, felt, found. I understand you feel disconnected, and we've had a lot of agents that have felt that way. What we've found is that when agents plug into the resources of the market center, their business grows exponentially. This is not a scene from the Matrix where there's a red pill and a blue pill. It's just all about plugging in. The correlation between people plugged into the resources of the market center and those that are productive. So, at your comfort level, of course, but I trust that most of your leadership that is setting meetings for, tech coaching or productivity coaching, you can do it via Zoom as well. So please plug into the resources at your market center. And we really appreciate you joining us.
Tim, did you say you have agents out in Western Mass?
No, I was saying if you guys are in Western Mass, like obviously, I mean, we have agents that are licensed. We probably have a 65 or so of our 750 that are licensed in Massachusetts. And I would argue for the most part, we've got a few, I'm thinking of one in particular, I won't say her name out loud, that's a maniac. She'll drive anywhere because she likes driving and she grew up in Massachusetts. A lot of them are going to play over the border and probably cover mostly the North Shore. And we can connect you with them, but no, we don't have agents. We do have one, Stephen Oates actually grew up towards Central and Western Mass, and he would go out there because he's got a lot of connections out there. But
Okay,
were you looking for help?
I'm not really exactly sure, but I know like Goshen, is that, I don't even know what that town is.
I grew up in Chelmsford, Mass. I feel like you just swore at me. I have no idea what that is. Maybe it's near Shirley or Orange, some other great.
No, it's past.
It's in Western Mass.
It's in Western Mass. Okay, like North Adams, Western Mass, or
Yeah, no, it's
Oh.
more, well, I told her yesterday, get a hold of the Northampton office.
yeah.
I'm from Western Mass, but I don't know Goshen well, but it's a lot closer to that Northampton office. I mean, I would give
Okay.
you somebody from our office, but I don't know how well they know that area either. But I know
Okay.
somebody in Northampton will know that area very well.
Yeah, so I just haven't received a response back. So
Oh, sorry.
it's okay. No. It's all good. Thank you. I appreciate you suggesting that. Okay. Well, thank you. I appreciate everything. This has
Good
been a
luck.
great class. Thanks. All right. Be well.
All right. Take care, everybody.
You too.
Thank you,
Bye-bye.
Susan. See you guys.
Thank you so much.
Hey, Susan,
Hi.
I didn't mean to throw you a curve by logging in first.
Oh, no, that's totally fine. Absolutely. No worries. I was happy to see you here today.
I'm just picking up about one class a week to help out and
Perfect.
stay connected and in. So I hope it was helpful.
That was great. I really appreciate it.
Oh, okay. Except for my calling myself the MCA. I'm not the MCA. You were wonderful. Thank you so much. Great.
Thank you. I appreciate the feedback. Have a wonderful day.
You too.
Bye.
Bye-bye.